Chapter 295. Since everyone's opinion is the same, then we will not delay any longer. The 6 of us will go directly to Shunning City to tell City Lord Hu of our opinion. After all, if the decision is made like this, then the longer we delay this matter, the more disadvantageous it will be for us. Lei Fan made the final decision, ending this discussion where everyone was of the same opinion. Now all the big and small forces within the Shunwu dynasty were on the lookout. Once the northern frontier showed a clear attitude of refusing to be conferred the title of king, then very quickly, the aristocratic families and even the sects would take action. Taking advantage of the fact that the Shunwu dynasty was temporarily unable to suppress them, they would quickly divide up the territories of the Shunwu dynasty and directly reduce the influence of the Lei imperial family to the lowest. But if the northern frontier accepted the title of king, it would be a heart-strengthening drug for the Shunwu dynasty. After all, once the two sides started to cooperate, then the existence that jumped out and tried to eat the meat would become the opponent of the northern frontier. Otherwise, how could the Shunwu dynasty write off the things that happened in the northern frontier? The Shunwu dynasty indeed did not have the spare strength to suppress them. But the northern frontier had them. Even if the demonic beasts in the northern frontier could not fight, the 600,000 northern frontier guards were still a strong force. In addition, many of these 600,000 people were veterans of the previous 7 border cities. They had battled with the demonic beasts for many years. In terms of combat experience, they were definitely not inferior to any of the elite troops of the Shunwu dynasty. Crushing those young masters raised by the aristocratic families would not be a problem at all. And the longer the northern frontier dragged on, the more fickle the people would be. Some people would even think that the northern frontier was hesitating. Even if they rejected the enlistment of the Shunwu dynasty in the end, the decision-makers of the northern frontier had also hesitated. Who knew when they would directly join forces with the Shunwu dynasty and start to deal with them? The longer this dragged on, the more potential allies the northern frontier would lose. Yo, everyone is here? What are you guys discussing? Suddenly, Lin Yuan's voice rang out from the gathering hall of the 6 city lords. The 6 city lords looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. After all, they had privately discussed this matter for the sake of forming a united front. However, before the discussion ended, no one dared to say that they were certain of the result. Even though they knew that joining the Shunwu dynasty would not bring them any benefits, working under the Black Snake was also extremely dangerous. Furthermore, working under a demonic beast would make it difficult for them to move around the Tianwu continent in the future. Therefore, the 6 city lords all chose to conceal the news. After disguising themselves many times, they quietly gathered in this secret room to discuss. No one had expected that the Black Snake would be able to find them so accurately. No one was stupid enough to believe that the Black Snake had just arrived here and did not know anything about what they were discussing. There were even a few city lords who had a layer of cold sweat on their backs. In truth, their hearts were more inclined towards the Shunwu dynasty. However, everyone's opinions were important, and under the circumstances, they could only agree with a few words. They did not expect that the Black Snake would be able to hear their conversation. At that moment, they were already thinking in their hearts. If the result of their discussion was to betray the Black Snake, then at this moment. After that, they did not dare to think any further. However, there was no doubt that the current them had just brushed shoulders with death. Lei Fan's mouth curled up slightly as he laughed bitterly. Aren't you asking the obvious? Of course it's the conferment of the Northern Frontier King. We intend to reject the goodwill of the Shunwu dynasty. This way we will be safer. No need. Lin Yuan shook his huge snake head, and a strange look flashed past his eyes as he said solemnly, "The Shunwu dynasty no longer has the time to care about us. Compared to us, they have an even stronger enemy." As his voice fell, the eyes of the 6 city lords all fell on Lin Yuan. The Shunwu dynasty's biggest enemies now were the Qingjiang dynasty and the Shuangjian dynasty. As long as the Shunwu dynasty was willing to admit defeat in this war and cede some land to the 2 dynasties, the war would soon be over. Then why did the Black Snake say that an even stronger enemy had appeared in the Shunwu dynasty? Could it be that the power behind the Shunwu dynasty could not take this lying down and had completely shed all pretense of cordiality? and was going to fight against the Shunwu dynasty personally? That should not be so, right? The Qingping king has rebelled. Lin Yuan paused as Huan Huan said a piece of important news. The Qingping king, Lei Qiuming, was Lei Qiusheng's twin brother. Whether it was in terms of scheming or cultivation aptitude, he was not inferior to Lei Qiusheng. If it was not because Lei Qiusheng was deeply trusted by Jiao Xinghai and received the cultivation resources of the Shunwu dynasty, which allowed him to step into the Heaven Star realm earlier, it was hard to say whether the throne of the Shunwu dynasty would be Lei Qiusheng or Lei Qiusheng. In addition, even if Lei Qiuming did not sit on the throne, he relied on his own abilities to gather an army of about 3 million people. Before the Shunwu dynasty was established, he used an irresistible force to take down the southern part of the Wanjian dynasty. Later on, he was even conferred the title of Qingping king. Although his military power and territory had been weakened by a lot, Lei Qiuming's rallying power within the Shunwu dynasty was still very terrifying. He could pull out an army of 1 million people at any time, and was seen as one of the biggest security threats of the Shunwu dynasty. Qingping king shouldn't be that bad, right? The city lord narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "If Qingping king wants to rebel, why wait until today?" If Lei Qiuming really had disloyal thoughts, he would have rebelled long ago. It would not be the turn of the northern frontier to make the first move. Previously, when the situation was good, he did not rebel. Why would he suddenly have such thoughts now? It's true. It's not that Lei Qiuming wants to rebel, it's just that he has no other choice. After all, although Lei Qiuming has more than 10 children in his life, he only has one son who can be the successor. And at this moment, his son is sitting here with all of you. Tell me, how can Lei Qiuming not panic? Lin Yuan said in a mocking tone. As the saying goes, no one knows a son better than his father. When the imperial edict was issued, Lei Qiuming had already guessed that even if Hu Yan was willing to accept this edict, Lei Fan would still oppose it with all his might. In addition, there was a black snake with unknown intentions lurking at the side. So, rejecting the conferment was definitely something that would happen sooner or later. When something happened at the northern frontier, the Shunwu dynasty did not have the spare energy to deal with it. But when there were internal problems, the Shunwu dynasty was still able to solve them quickly. After all, the northern frontier was still a new mess. But those vassals and aristocratic families were all hidden dangers that had existed for a long time. It was impossible that the Shunwu dynasty did not have a backup plan. Chapter 296. According to the laws of the Shunwu dynasty, the heirs of the vassal kings were not allowed to remain in the vassal king's fief. They would all be sent to the imperial capital to receive education. From a young age, they would be instilled with the thought of being loyal to the imperial family, to the king. At the same time, this was to prevent the vassal kings from rebelling. After all, the heirs were all in the hands of the vassal kings. You couldn't possibly become immortal and immortal. Wouldn't it still have to be passed down to the next generation? It was very difficult for powerful cultivators to give birth to heirs, especially those who were intelligent, suitable to be groomed as heirs. To these vassal kings, that was an existence more important than their own lifeblood. Lei Qiuming may have over 10 children, but Lei Qiuming already had 3 concubines, not to mention those concubines and other reproductive tools. It was said that the beauties raised in Lei Qiuming's residence were not much inferior to Lei Qiusheng's imperial harem. But Lei Qiuming was after all powerful, so he was given special treatment. Usually, he would stay in the imperial capital, and without a suitable reason, he would not take even half a step out of the city gates. After all, as a vassal king with over 1 million mercenaries, Lei Qiusheng could not possibly not be on guard against him. So he could either send his son to the imperial capital, or stay in the imperial capital himself. There was no other choice. If there was any deviation, what awaited the Azure Cape royal territory would be the thunderous fury of the Shunwu dynasty. This time, after the imperial edict of coronation had been sent to the northern frontier, he had not received a reply from the northern frontier, so Lei Qiuming had panicked. It did not matter that Lei Fan had humiliated the Shunwu dynasty, as the Shunwu dynasty had only wanted to give it a try. But to Lei Qiuming, this was equivalent to being roasted on a fire by his own son. Lei Qiuxing had suffered such a setback in the northern frontier, and his first reaction was that the northern frontier no longer belonged to him. Then, as Lei Fan's father, Lei Qiuxing would definitely be the most resolute ally of the northern frontier. With the intention of eliminating all hidden dangers, Lei Qiuxing would definitely not give Lei Qiuxing a way out. Having thought this through, while the Xinwu dynasty was still waiting for the reply from the northern frontier, Lei Qiuming had secretly slipped out of the imperial capital under the cover of a group of men of sacrifice, and immediately activated his own rallying power to gather his old subordinates. Although the Xinwu dynasty's national power was not what it used to be, but it had still allowed Lei Qiuming to gather over 300,000 elite soldiers and strong generals. Moreover, he had unilaterally announced that the Azure Cape Royal Territory would be sealed off, and would not be participating in any operations of the Xinwu dynasty for the time being. Such an action, to call it an independent declaration of war, was not an exaggeration. So, to pin the label of rebellion on Lei Qiuming's head was not an injustice at all. After listening to Lin Yuan's narration, the corners of the eyes of all the city lords twitched slightly, and their gazes fell upon the calm face of Lei Fan. Although they had long known that this newly appointed city lord of the mountain-blocking city had an exceedingly high background, but they only knew that his surname was Lei, and that he was considered a relative of the imperial family. But no one would have thought that Lei Fan would be the only son of the Azure Cape King. To them, the position of city lord was already the pinnacle of power, but to Lei Fan, it was just a game. Even if Lei Fan did not do anything, he would still be able to inherit the throne of the Azure Cape King in the future, becoming an existence that they could only look up to in this lifetime, and when they talked about him, their tone would be filled with respect. But who would have thought that a relative of the imperial family, who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, would be the existence that was most resistant to cooperating with the Xinwu dynasty? Lei Fan was also having a headache, and he stretched out his hand to rub the space between his eyebrows, and said in a deep voice, "It's all right, don't bother about it. My father just likes to cause trouble. Don't be fooled by how he is making a ruckus now. If things really go south, he might even be the vanguard of the crusade against the northern frontier. Nobody knows a son better than his father. Nobody knows a father better than his son." Lei Qiuming and Lei Qiuxing were blood brothers, and had the disposition of an ambitious and ruthless person. Now that he had the chance to take another step forward, Lei Qiuming would naturally grab hold of this opportunity. Although part of the reason was to protect his own life, but one could not deny his ambition. If not, he would have obediently stayed in the imperial capital. Could it be that Lei Qiuxing really dared to kill Lei Qiuming as a sacrifice? To put it bluntly, the current Xinwu dynasty could not withstand too many twists and turns, and Lei Qiuming's death was obviously beyond the limits of what the Xinwu dynasty could withstand. After all, he was a man who could casually summon an army of hundreds of thousands with just a wave of his hand. But as an ambitious and ruthless person, he would not place too much importance on relationships. If things really went south, Lei Qiuming would undoubtedly choose to shake hands and make peace with Lei Qiuxing, and give up on this son that he doted on so much. After all, Lei Qiuming was still in his prime, and as a Heaven Dipper realm cultivator, he could at least live for a few more 100 years. If his son died, he could just give birth to a few more. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes turned, and he did not deny Lei Fan's thoughts. Such was the nature of ambitious and ruthless people. Asking them to give up what they already had would cause them heartache. But if they could obtain something better, these ambitious and ruthless people would not hesitate to exchange, as if they did not have any feelings for what they had in the past. There were quite a number of self-proclaimed ambitious and ruthless people, but those who could truly be considered as such, Lin Yuan had only met two. One was his blood feud in his previous life. Lin Yuan was not willing to recall the details, but if he could do it all over again, he would never make an enemy out of such an existence. But since things had already come to this, even if Lin Yuan had come to a different world, he would not rest until the other party was dead. The other person who could be considered as an ambitious and ruthless person was the Beast Lord Kirin, who had suppressed the Hengduan Mountains for hundreds of years. When he was young, he had even plotted against the 7 great empires. This must have happened after the Wanjian dynasty was destroyed, and the remnants of the Jiao clan became a chess piece in the hands of the Beast Lord Kirin to restrict the Shunwu dynasty. Other than the Beast Lord Kirin himself, no one knew how many other similar arrangements he had prepared. Until now, although the Beast Lord Kirin's strength was not enough, he still had the aura of a king. From the way he chose his successor, for the sake of the stability of the Hengduan Mountains, he really did not hesitate to kill off all the other outstanding juniors. It might seem like a loss, but it would allow the Beast King to develop steadily. All right, let's get back to the topic. Lin Yuan looked around and said expressionlessly, I don't care about your opinions. I'm only here to inform you of one thing. The northern frontier has accepted the imperial edict. From today onwards, the 7 border cities will be ruled by Lei Fan. I only have one request. No matter what happens, the secret agents, officials, and army of the Shunwu dynasty are not allowed to infiltrate the northern frontier. If I find any of them, all of you will be punished. The city lord stood up abruptly, and there was a trace of shock in his eyes. After a moment of silence, the city lord clenched his teeth and said, Demon Emperor, you should be very clear that accepting this imperial edict will do us more harm than good. Am I right? Chapter 297. That's right. Lin Yuan nodded sincerely and didn't deny it. Then why? The city lord with a thunderous face almost roared out loud. As the commander who had led the team to defeat the Xiong Wujuan, the city lord was undoubtedly the hero of the northern frontier. His reputation and status had greatly improved. However, this glory in the eyes of the people of the northern frontier was an unforgivable misdeed in the eyes of the Shunwu dynasty. The enemy's hero was the enemy's enemy. The city lord didn't even dare to imagine how he, the hero of the northern frontier, would be dealt with if the Shunwu dynasty really survived this hurdle. Because not only can the Shunwu dynasty not afford to fight, but I also can't afford to fight. Lin Yuan turned his heterochromatic eyes and looked at the city lord. He said in a deep voice, There is still a faction secretly watching us. If the world is peaceful, they won't have an excuse to make a move. However, once the situation is chaotic, can you guarantee that those aristocratic families will target the Shunwu dynasty? The human heart was the most sinister thing in this world. The profits of the northern frontier's monopoly on phase were too great. Even if there was a certain difficulty in operating it, it wasn't impossible to replicate. Lin Yuan secretly had the Demon Arch Association to patrol the northern frontier. In the light, he had the 7 city lords overseeing. He also had the Hengduan mountain range backing him. Naturally, he could easily do this business well. However, to some truly powerful aristocratic families, their influence might not be inferior to Lin Yuan. Even if they couldn't circulate the goods of the 7 dynasties like Lin Yuan, just the monopoly of the phase that targeted the Shunwu dynasty was enough to make countless people jealous. Now the Shunwu dynasty's situation was complicated. At first glance, it looked like a mess, and no one was willing to take over. However, the northern frontier was different. Apart from facing the threat of the Fey beasts, it was no different from a huge gold mine. The cooperation between Lin Yuan, the Demon Arch Association, and the 7 border cities was also reminding these people that although the Fey beasts hated humans, it wasn't impossible to bribe them. As long as enough benefits were given, it wasn't impossible to completely replicate Lin Yuan's current business model, let alone the humans' side. It was the same even within the Hengduan mountain range. God knew how many Fey beasts were coveting Lin Yuan's position. If it wasn't for Sabaru, the Fey beast clans would have started suppressing Lin Yuan. In order to maintain a good relationship with Sabaru, even if Sabaru didn't take the initiative to speak up for Lin Yuan still gave 20% of the profits to Sabaru. That is also true. As a native of the northern frontier, As a native of the northern frontier. As a native of that. Me too. Lei Fan nodded his head as well. He knew very well who his backer was. Seeing his ally betraying him, Lei Gong City Lord felt uncomfortable in his heart. But on the surface he could only sigh helplessly and said, Yes, Wang Gang accepts the order. That's all. Meeting adjourned. Lin Yuan nodded his head and took the lead to wriggle his snake body and left. The next day, almost everyone who had their eyes on the northern frontier had entered a state of silence. After all, no one would have thought that the northern frontier who had the absolute advantage would actually choose to accept the Xinwu dynasty's imperial edict of bestowing king. Just that the one to be bestowed the title was changed from Hu Yen to Lei Fan. To the Lei royal family, it was a good thing for their bloodline to become the king of the northern frontier. So before Lei Qiuxing had even expressed his agreement, the imperial clan court, the various vassals, and even some of the side branches of the Lei family had all expressed their agreement to Lei Qiuxing in different ways. Lei Qiuxing, who had only wanted to give it a try and did not expect to succeed, was also slightly stunned. But very quickly, he smiled and read through the memorials and agreed to the northern frontier's small request. Zhang Xiu, who do you think is behind this? Lei Qiuxing put down the memorials in his hands and let out a long breath. He smiled and asked. Zhang Xiu put his hands behind his back, and his face, which was fairer than a woman's, did not show the slightest emotion. He just lowered his head and silently wiped the bloodstains on his hands. Without raising his head, he said, Your Majesty, once the northern frontier's problem is solved, no matter how bold the southern and central clans are, they would not dare to imitate the northern frontier's actions. But this problem is solved. Don't you want to solve our current problem? Although Zhang Xiu's expression did not change when he spoke, Lei Qiuxing could still hear a hint of helplessness in Zhang Xiu's tone. He could not help but laugh heartily. Ha 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 ha, trouble? What trouble? Isn't it just a group of hopping grasshoppers after autumn? Without the support of the Hengduan mountain range, how many days can the Jiao clan last? Solving the northern frontier's problem is our current problem. Now that the problem has been solved, I am naturally happy. At this point, the smile on Lei Qiuxing's face gradually disappeared. He said in a deep voice, If the Jiao clan wants to continue existing in the Xinwu dynasty, the biggest problem that needs to be solved is to re-establish contact with the Hengduan mountain range and urgently mobilize a batch of resources to replenish themselves. The Black Snake and its Demon Emperor Association hate the Jiao clan the most. Next, we just have to watch the internal strife between our two great enemies. Zhang Xiu's mouth also curved into a smile. The Jiao clan's Jiao clan that had been entangled with the embroidered uniform guard for many years would soon vanish. He was naturally the happiest. In addition, other than the Jiao clan's Jiao clan, he also found the Black Snake an interesting prey. Even if the Jiao clan's Jiao clan was uprooted, he did not have to worry about being bored in the future. In fact, compared to knowing the Jiao clan's However, you should also hurry up with the Black Snake's matter. The smile on Lei Qiuxing's face completely disappeared. He once again resumed the appearance of a cold monarch. He said in a deep voice, As long as this demon emperor is not dug out, it will be like a thorn in my heart. You can directly kill the Black Snake. If there is really a demon emperor behind the scenes, it will naturally appear or throw out a new smoke bomb. If there is no demon emperor, then get rid of the Black Snake as soon as possible so that I can sleep soundly and not spend every day in anxiety. Your Majesty, I know what to do about the Black Snake's matter. Zhang Xiu bowed slightly and rejected Lei Qiuxing's suggestion that would ruin his fun. He tilted his head and said, Your Majesty, you should pay more attention to the Qingpeng King now, shouldn't you? Chapter 298. Unexpectedly, the northern frontier chose to accept the title of king, causing a lot of people to be dissatisfied. At the same time, it also caused most of the restless forces to once again cease their banners and cease their drums. They no longer dared to challenge the prestige of the Xinwu dynasty. After all, at this time, if anyone wanted to become the second northern frontier, it was possible that not only the Xiongwu army would be mobilized. Based on the temperament of the Xinwu emperor, if you dared to make things difficult for him, he would dare to drag you down with him. Time passed bit by bit. Lin Yuan, who chose to keep the peace, did not continue the plan of sealing off the Xinwu dynasty's spiritual items. Of course, when the spiritual items of the Hengduan Mountains passed through the northern frontier, The price would still be 30% higher than the original price. However, this was already a very satisfactory price. It was much better than the previous exorbitant price of spiritual items. Even cultivators from ordinary families could grit their teeth and buy some spiritual items to assist their cultivation. Another month passed by. The progress bar of Lin Yuan's transformation into a flood dragon successfully reached 99.9%, and then it stopped moving. Lin Yuan was almost used to the way the system cheated him. Based on the current situation, if he wanted to completely transform into a flood dragon, he would have to do some special mission to push the last 0.1% of the progress bar. However, this mission was not directly released by the system. It should have some trigger conditions. Ever since the progress bar was stuck 3 days ago, Lin Yuan had been staying in Shunning City thinking about what the trigger conditions for this flood dragon transformation mission were. What did he have to find? Where did he have to go? Or who did he have to meet? However, the system was not willing to give any hint. In any case, it would not do anything related to humans. However, to be honest, although the system had done many immoral things, this was the first time it had done something so confusing. After all, it was normal for this kind of mission to not have a clear direction. However, if it did not even give a clue, then it was a bit too much. The Mountain Lord realm is indeed not that easy to enter. Lin Yuan faintly sighed. As a cheater with a system, all along, as long as he had enough attribute points, he would not need to be stuck at a bottleneck like other monsters or cultivators. But now, a bottleneck had indeed not appeared, but the system's mission was definitely more terrifying than a bottleneck. Although both required luck, the former at least gave him a direction, right? Thinking of this, Lin Yuan simply emptied his mind and began to think about some nonsense. Soon Lin Yuan realized something. There was a clear boundary between realms in this world. The desolate demon realm, void underworld realm, and above seemed to be bound by an invisible rule. They would almost never participate in any disputes between those of a lower realm, and they were usually in a state of seclusion. Strictly speaking, the number of such cultivators was not small. For example, the northern frontier had the former guardian of the northern frontier, Yan Xingqi, and Master Qin of the Freedom Courtyard. Perhaps there were some powerhouses that Lin Yuan had never seen before. However, just one of them had at least 2 void underworld realm cultivators. How many of such existences were there in the entire Tianwu continent? But what was strange was that in the 7 empires that were nominally at the top, the kings were generally in the airborne realm. It could even be said that heavenly strength realm kings like Jiu Xinghai and Lei Qiuxing were rare. As for kings above the heavenly strength realm, there had not been a single one since ancient times. This seemed to be some kind of rule. Who was the person who made the rules, and why did they make such rules? Ding, 3,500 meters to the west, a River Lord realm monster is approaching. Host, please be careful to avoid it. The system's notification sounded in Lin Yuan's ears, and it was as calm as ever. River Lord realm? Lin Yuan was slightly taken aback at first, but he quickly realized that this was probably another name for Mountain Lord realm monsters. Monsters on land were called Mountain Lords, and aquatic monsters were called River Lords? Lin Yuan had no intention of avoiding it at this moment. After all, the other party was only one realm higher than him. Even if he wasn't a match for it after activating the blood boil technique, escaping wouldn't be much of a problem. At this moment, Lin Yuan was thinking about whether he should be called a mountain lord or a river lord if he broke through again. After all, water snakes were amphibious creatures. Was he supposed to call them mountain and river lords? Turtle, that was a bit domineering. Before Lin Yuan could recover from his blank state of mind, the River Lord realm monster in the system's notification had already appeared in front of Lin Yuan. The moment the other party appeared, Lin Yuan had already regained consciousness. Although he didn't want to admit it, Lin Yuan couldn't help but be on high alert. Although he didn't know what level this guy in front of him was at the River Lord realm, the pressure he gave off wasn't inferior in the slightest to Yan Xingqi, Master Qin, and other Void Realm cultivators. The old, weak, sick, and disabled people he had seen in Sumeru World couldn't compare at all. Black Snake, we meet again. The other party's figure was still flickering. Evidently, it was still moving at high speed, but it stopped steadily in front of Lin Yuan. This mysterious action caused Lin Yuan's eyes to narrow slightly. He began to think carefully. When had he ever seen a River Lord realm monster like this? After all, he had been reborn in this world for less than a year. Although he had experienced many things, he hadn't forgotten a single thing that was worth remembering. In addition, Lin Yuan didn't think that he had the right to look down on a River Lord realm monster. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't remember this unremarkable monster. When the River Lord realm monster saw Lin Yuan's expression, it immediately knew that Lin Yuan hadn't guessed who it was. A moment later, it stopped and squinted its eyes. Other than me, have you seen other demonic beasts of the Dragon Clan? As the other party stabilized itself, Lin Yuan quickly recalled that when he was still a Spirit Awakening realm monster, he had seen this River Lord realm monster. However, at that time, the system hadn't scanned its level. Now that Lin Yuan was strong enough, the system directly called it a River Lord realm monster. If Lin Yuan could improve further, the system would even be able to scan the other party's strength. Senior Ao Qian of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Lin Yuan lowered his head slightly to show his respect. Under the law of the jungle, the strong should always be respected. Ao Qian nodded slightly to show that she was very satisfied that the Black Snake could still remember her. After all, a Spirit Awakening realm monster's intelligence wasn't much better than that of an ordinary wild beast. Back then, it was already good enough that the Black Snake could communicate with her normally. As for being able to clearly remember what happened back then, it didn't have any expectations. Chapter 299. Very good, Black Snake. You really didn't disappoint me. No wonder you have the blood of the Dragon Clan in your body. Ao Qian smiled and said in a deep voice, I can feel that the blood in your body is very pure. It is gradually transforming your body, allowing you to be one step closer to the noble Dragon Clan. But now there is a small accident. You are still unable to take the last step, right? Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes lit up. He had been thinking about why he had no clue about this special mission. But now it seemed that although this mission needed to be triggered, Lin Yuan didn't need to find it himself. As long as the time was right, the other party would send itself to him. Dog system, Daddy has wronged you. You have done something good this time. Please enlighten me, Senior. Lin Yuan took a deep breath and tried to calm his excited mood. But when he spoke, his voice was still trembling. The smile in Ao Qian's eyes deepened, but she didn't explain directly. Instead, she asked, Black Snake, do you know what the blood of the Monster Clan means to the Monster Clan? Lin Yuan didn't speak. After all, he didn't know anything about the power of the blood. After all, this kind of question, if it was in his previous life, would belong to the problem of genetics. Since ancient times, those who could achieve something in this field were undoubtedly the elites of the elites. They belonged to the type who lived in this world, and the rest were just there to make up the numbers. Before Lin Yuan was reborn in this world, it was said that the direction of genetics research had already begun to break through to immortality. Yes, to the ancient people, immortality could only be achieved by gods. In the eyes of geneticists, it was completely possible to achieve through scientific means. Even if the technology was not mature, it was still possible to modify some genes and make humans immune to some diseases. But to put this problem on Lin Yuan, it was too difficult for him. Whether it was before or after the blood feud, the field he dabbled in had nothing to do with genetics. Demonic beasts are generally categorized into one big group by human beings. However, internally, demonic beasts are divided into three big groups: the sky, the land, and the sea. These three big groups are further divided into different small groups. However, it is indisputable that these three groups have their own leaders. For example, the Phoenix of the Sky group, the Dragon of the Sea group, and the Kirin of the Land group. The bloodline determined a demonic beast's appearance, innate talent, aptitude, and ability. A dragon race cub that didn't die prematurely could easily reach the level of a river master after entering the growth stage. Moreover, the innate talent and ability it awakened was far from what other races could compare to. However, for an ordinary demonic beast, even if it died of old age, Whether it could become a river lord depended on its own luck. Reaching a higher cultivation level was even an extravagant hope. Thus, the power of a demonic beast's bloodline also determined the upper limit of a demonic beast's growth. Black Snake, among the countless monsters, you are undoubtedly one of the luckiest ones. This is because you were born with the bloodline of the dragon clan in your body, and the concentration is not low. Therefore, your growth speed is very amazing in the eyes of outsiders, but in our dragon clan, it is considered normal because all of this is given to you by your dragon clan bloodline. Seeing that Lin Yuan didn't speak, Ao Qian directly started to bluff him. Lin Yuan nodded his head cooperatively, and sneered in his heart. In less than a year, from a wild beast to the peak of the wisdom realm. If this speed was considered normal in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, then the system wouldn't say that there were only a few true dragons in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. He had already guessed what Ao Qian was up to. She wanted to use this opportunity to beat him up, and at the same time recruit him under the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. After all, if it was Lin Yuan who did it himself, he wouldn't let go of a newly born genius who could stir up a storm in the Sky Martial continent, and not be used by the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Faintly, Lin Yuan even felt a trace of danger. After all, if it was him who did this, he would first get familiar with the other party, and then throw out a certain amount of benefits to tempt the other party. If the other party was still stubborn, then Lin Yuan could only carry out the backup plan with the idea of destroying the other party if he couldn't get the other party. After thinking through this point, Lin Yuan's sense of danger became even more intense. Black Snake, the power of the bloodline in your body has stopped transforming, and it's not your problem. Almost all of us dragon bloodline demonic beasts have similar problems. This is also one of the reasons why the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was first established. We want to help all the dragon bloodline demonic beasts break the shackles of their own bloodline and step into a new realm. It's like this. Although you have the bloodline of the dragon clan, you may not be recognized by the bloodline of the dragon clan. Only when you are recognized by the power of your own bloodline can the bloodline continue to transform. Regarding this point, all the forces established by the dragon bloodline demonic beasts have studied, but the success rate is generally not high. Only our Dragon Palace of the Four Seas has a success rate of almost 70%. This is also one of the reasons why we can become the strongest among all the dragon bloodline demonic beasts. However, it's not easy to help the dragon bloodline demonic beasts to be recognized by the power of the bloodline. Even we have to pay a great price, so we can't provide such a service for the dragon bloodline demonic beasts for free. We're just willing to give you a chance. We're old acquaintances. As long as you're willing to join the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, I'll personally pay the cost of awakening the bloodline for you. How about that? Ao Qian did not notice Lin Yuan's strange look, and continued to speak. What she said was partly true and partly false. After all, there were many forces established by the dragon bloodline demonic beasts, and the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was not necessarily the strongest. However, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas did not accept demonic beasts with other bloodlines at all. Even a genius without the dragon bloodline was not qualified to join the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. As for those with the dragon bloodline, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would not care about their prospects at all, and would directly send people to invite them. As for helping the dragon bloodline demonic beasts to be recognized by the power of the bloodline, it was possible that the dragon bloodline demonic beasts had indeed summed up a set of methods, but the cost might not be very high. Moreover, since there was a failure rate, the success rate of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was definitely less than 70%. This was what Lin Yuan could be sure that Ao Qian was lying about. After all, whether it was a human or a demonic beast, the eyes were the windows to the soul. Once there was any fluctuation in the heart, the eyes would follow. When she said this, Lin Yuan could clearly see that Ao Qian's eyes were flickering. Obviously, she was guilty, like a child who had secretly done something bad. Therefore, Lin Yuan could also see that this was probably the first time she had deceived a demonic beast. Chapter 300. After all, Ao Qian had once invited the Black Serpent on behalf of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. However, at that time, the The black serpent was just an awakened beast. Although it had the dragon bloodline, its future potential was hard to predict. Therefore, Ao Qian had only casually mentioned it. However, the black serpent was no longer the same as before. Just its growth speed alone was enough to crush all the young talents of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. From a beast to the peak of the wisdom state in less than a year, what kind of concept was that? Anyway, as a young genius of the dragon race, when Ao Qian heard this news, her first reaction was that someone was telling her a story. However, after confirming it repeatedly, she realized that it was true. Moreover, the main character was the black serpent she had seen before. In addition, other than its own strength and growth speed, the black serpent's subordinates were also extraordinary. Although the land beasts under the black serpent's command were of no value to the sea beasts, the black serpent now controlled the northern frontier, and almost all the production of spiritual items in the Stoneclaw forest. Even if the sea beasts did not need those, they could still bring in huge profits. The value of the black serpent now was completely different from the black serpent before. Lin Yuan narrowed his heterochromatic eyes and sized up Ao Qian for a moment. He said in a deep voice, "Senior, I need to consider this matter. After all, I am still the Beast King of the Hengduan mountain range, am I not?" Considering that if he directly rejected it, he might trigger Ao Qian's killing intent. Therefore Lin Yuan chose to be steady. For the current him, he was surrounded by powerful enemies. Only when his strength was truly strong would he be able to accept the test. However, to give up on himself and become a lackey of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas in order to obtain the bloodline powers recognition was not an option that Lin Yuan would choose. Moreover, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas could not guarantee that he could successfully awaken his bloodline. Therefore Lin Yuan needed time. If he could obtain the bloodline powers recognition, his strength would be able to smoothly enter the Mountain Lord realm. At that time, even if Ao Qian wanted to kill him, he would still be able to fight back. If he waited until Ao Qian ran out of patience and still did not awaken his bloodline power, Lin Yuan could only throw away his old face and rush into the depths of the Hengduan mountain range to seek protection from the Beast King court. He did not believe that Ao Qian would dare to pursue him. Ever since he met with Kirin, the Hengduan mountain range, the Beast King had entered a bloody period. Beast King Kirin the Hengduan mountain range killed many of the other factions hidden in the mountains. Even the Inferno Hell Demon's subordinates, that of the lords, who had been hiding, who was who of the Purgatory Beast King. Of Beast King of Avovs. Even Raymond, Keho, and Sabaru, the three great Beast Kings, were currently being investigated. One could vaguely see that the Beast King Kirin had set up a large net. People like Lin Yuan who had hidden things that other demon beasts would not see the light of day were actually safe. However, Beast King Kirin would rather kill the wrong person than let the wrong person go. The Hengduan mountain range during this period was extremely bloody and violent. If it was not necessary, Lin Yuan did not want to enter. If a foreign dragon bloodline demon beast entered the Hengduan mountain range, it would probably be torn to pieces in a matter of minutes. Ao Qian's eyes flashed with joy. She nodded with a smile and said, "It's fine. Take your time to think about it. Once you've handed over the matters at hand, follow me back to the Western Sea Dragon Palace. I will ask for instructions from the higher-ups and give you the best resources to awaken your bloodline." Lin Yuan still smiled and nodded. He still did not speak. Only after obtaining the bloodline's recognition could one become a true flood dragon? Then, what was the recognition of the flood dragon bloodline? Lin Yuan thought carefully for a moment. Suddenly, his heterochromatic eyes lit up. In his previous life, there were two types of flood dragons. One type lived in seclusion deep in the mountains and forests and did not come out. They only focused on cultivation, and might often hide in the cold ponds deep in the mountains. The other type of flood dragon was different. They liked to come out and cultivate. In the ancient legends of his previous life, there were often monsters that controlled rivers and lakes. Most of them were aquatic monsters, but there was no lack of flood dragons. After all, there were too many mysteries in the sea. The strength of a flood dragon was not enough to roam freely. However, in his previous life, besides the mythical dragon king of the four seas, Most of the people referred to flood dragons in the rivers, lakes, and seas. Could it be that if I want to obtain the recognition of the flood dragon bloodline, I have to choose one of these two cultivation methods? Lin Yuan gently shook the snake's head. His eyes gradually deepened. Come out or enter the world. Although it wasn't clear how the dragon bloodline demonic beasts of this world obtained the recognition of their bloodline, the difficulty was undoubtedly very high. For example, among Sabara's descendants, not to mention the three-eyed sacred heart ape, even the three-eyed sacred heart ape could be counted on one's fingers. As for whether or not the bloodline above Sabara would be the inheritance of some incomparably terrifying ancient creature, no one knew. In any case, among the apes of the Hengduan mountain range, Sabara's bloodline was the noblest and strongest. As for Lin Yuan, with the assistance of the system, it was hard to say how far his bloodline could evolve. However, if the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas really existed, it meant that the legends of his previous life were not groundless. Then, the strongest dragon that Lin Yuan knew of would be the ancestral dragon that was born after the creation of the world by Pangu. Lin Yuan did not know if he could evolve to the level of the ancestral dragon. However, Lin Yuan was sure that his upper limit was definitely not a mere waterflood dragon. Then let's try to enter the world and cultivate. Lin Yuan recovered from his thoughts. Ao Qian was already nowhere to be found. Obviously, she was very satisfied with Lin Yuan's answer, and wanted to give Lin Yuan enough time and trust. Therefore, when Lin Yuan was thinking, she had already quietly left. Lin Yuan. Were all River Lord level demonic beasts so easily deceived? After fighting with humans and some old monsters hiding in the Hengduan mountain range for a long time, Lin Yuan's first reaction was that he was not used to seeing a fellow with a different style. However, after thinking about it, as a River Lord level demonic beast, it was hunting down a wisdom perception dove serpent. Even the task of roping in Lin Yuan had fallen on its head. Almost all of them were easy and highly paid people. Although Ao Qian did not mention it, her position in the Dragon Palace of the West Sea was definitely not low. For such an existence, ordinary demonic beasts would not dare to play tricks with it. Even humans would subconsciously avoid it. Only a cheat like Lin Yuan would deceive it. Lightly shaking his head, Lin Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. He wriggled his snake body and walked towards the City Lord mansion of Shunning City. Chapter 301. The next day, early morning. A government decree was issued from Shunning City's City Lord's mansion, and quickly spread to every town under the jurisdiction of the 7 cities in the northern frontier. Every human settlement built along the river had to add a new item during the planning of the buildings. Dragon King Temple. In fact, this government decree was originally issued from the king's mansion in the northern frontier. However, before this, the 7 cities in the border were almost equivalent to a land of exile. Naturally, no one would be willing to come to a place that was harassed by demon beasts every day to claim the title of king. Therefore, no king's mansion was built. There were only a few suitable buildings, and could only be rebuilt. Currently, it was still in the preparation stage. Naturally, Lei Fan did not move to the king's mansion in the northern frontier. He only temporarily stayed in Shunning City's City Lord's mansion, waiting for the construction of Mountain Blocking City. If those nobles were to know that the northern frontier could monopolize the lucrative business of demon beasts, perhaps demon beasts would not be able to stop these nobles from yearning for profit. And Lin Yuan had been born for a year and finally had an official title. Blackwater Dragon King, Lin Yuan. Before this title, no matter what attitude one had towards Lin Yuan, they had to address Lin Yuan as Black Snake or Black Snake Beast King. But after this title, they would either address him as Blackwater Dragon King or Lin Yuan. Calling him Black Snake was more or less an insult. Most people and demon beasts scoffed at Lin Yuan's behavior. In their opinion, this Black Snake only had a slightly better aptitude, but in essence, he was still just a demon snake. He was still far from being part of the Dragon Clan. Even the Lord of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas dared to call himself the Dragon King. Since when did a mere wisdom demon snake have the right to call himself the Dragon King? But surprisingly, Lin Yuan's behavior of calling himself the Dragon King Hengduan Mountain Range, Shenwu Dynasty, and the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas were surprisingly silent, as if they had tacitly approved of this matter. After all, in everyone's opinion, Black Snake was now one of their own, wasn't it? The title of Black Water Dragon King was conferred by the king of the northern frontier. In theory, Lin Yuan was the official young god who ruled the northern frontier under the Shenwu dynasty. If the evil beasts on the northern frontier wanted to cause trouble, they had to show some respect to the Black Water Dragon King. As for the Hengduan Mountain Range, it was even simpler. No matter what achievements Lin Yuan had outside, as long as he had not severed ties with the Hengduan Mountain Range, then Lin Yuan was one of the beast kings of the Hengduan Mountain Range. Now this beast king not only ruled the territory of the Hengduan Mountain Range, but also expanded his territory to the northern frontier of the Shenwu dynasty. What could they oppose? As for the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, it was purely for their own amusement. In their opinion, Lin Yuan would be one of them sooner or later. And judging from the speed of Lin Yuan's growth, Lin Yuan was indeed qualified to compete for the position of the Dragon King in the future. Therefore, they naturally had no objection to Lin Yuan being conferred the title of king in advance. After all, the Northern Frontier Water Tribe did not belong to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not touch anyone's cake. On the contrary, whoever could completely rope in Lin Yuan was equivalent to adding a new force out of thin air. Of course, although the three forces had tacitly agreed, there were still many existences who did not address Lin Yuan as the Blackwater Dragon King. After all, they did not admit that Lin Yuan was qualified to be conferred the title of Dragon King. Therefore, they called Lin Yuan Wild Python. Since Lin Yuan was born, he had been in battle almost all the time. He fought with demonic beasts and humans. From the fights between individuals for survival and strength, to later wars to expand his territory and obtain better resources, countless existences that blocked Lin Yuan's path were annihilated one after another. Even Mountain Blocking City, one of the 7 border cities, was annihilated by Lin Yuan's attack. Later, Shunning City, which gathered the forces of the 7 border cities, also fell under Lin Yuan's attack. Facing the Xiong Wujuan army of the Shenwu dynasty's counterattack, Lin Yuan had no intention of backing down. He directly fought back fiercely and defeated the Xiong Wujuan army. Just when Lin Yuan accepted the imperial edict, and everyone thought that the Black Snake was afraid, and was about to start to quiet down, Lin Yuan once again made an earth-shattering movement. It should be known that although the positions of Yang God and Yin God existed, those who could be conferred the titles were either demonic beasts raised by the major sects and dynasties, or those whose cultivation path was not smooth. They simply attached their divine thoughts to the statues, and absorbed the power of faith and incense to cultivate. All in all, Lin Yuan's behavior is absolutely more than enough to be called crazy. After all, Lin Yuan was not an indigenous person of this world at all. He himself was a cheat with the system. Unless there was an absolute gap in strength between the two sides, Lin Yuan would not be in awe of anything. However, this kind of behavior was indeed arrogant in the eyes of the indigenous people of this world. Congratulations to the host for being conferred the title of Yang God by the Shenwu dynasty, and unlocking a new model, incense model. At the same time, the system's notification sounded. It had been exactly 1 year since Lin Yuan had come to this world. During this year, Lin Yuan had killed countless people and provoked many strong enemies. Many people looked up to him. From a small black snake who relied on catching mice to embark on the road of cultivation, he had become the Blackwater Dragon King, who suppressed the entire northern frontier. Lin Yuan opened the incense model with his mind, and began to read it carefully. Every time the system launched a new template, it would bring a lot of surprises to Lin Yuan. For example, the war template, which Lin Yuan had previously regarded as a chicken rib, had a war treasure trove that refreshed regularly, and it provided Lin Yuan with a star chart that could be used to cultivate demonic power. Lin Yuan immediately became interested in it. After all, although the system did not do anything, the sentence "the products of the system must be the best" was still applicable. Lin Yuan faintly had a premonition that perhaps the promotion of his bloodline power would depend on this incense-burning model. Name, Lin Yuan. Title, Blackwater Dragon King affiliation, Shimwu Dynasty, Northern Frontier believers, 0 incense model, 0 description. The host has no believers and no power of incense, so the function of the incense model has not been unlocked. The host is requested to develop believers as soon as possible and collect the power of incense to unlock the various subfunctions of the model. Lin Yuan was speechless. This time, he did not want to complain about the system for not doing anything. But then again, how was he going to develop believers and collect the power of incense? Was he going to ask people to come to the Dragon King Temple to make a wish, and then fulfill their wishes in his own way? Well, it was not impossible. The only problem was, what if people came to make a wish and said that they wanted a son? After all, in the TV series he had watched in his previous life, it seemed that the believers who went to the temple to make a wish were either asking for a son or a marriage, right? He really could not help with this kind of thing. Chapter 302. 15 days later. The first Blackwater Dragon King Temple had been completed. Lin Yuan was there personally to witness the entire process. However, he was after all a newly ascended god. Although the people of the northern frontier knew that the Black Snake could bring them a huge amount of wealth, and were willing to support the Black Snake, there was still a difference between a proper god and a ruler. The people who were present were just giving face to the Black Snake and the king of the northern frontier. But towards this newly ascended god, they did not have much expectation. However, the attitude of the people of the northern frontier was one thing, and Lei Fan's attitude was another. He was obviously very familiar with this kind of bootlicking. Lin Yuan did not even have a single believer now. But regardless of whether it was building the Dragon King Temple, or hiring the Dragon King's priests and cultivators, Lei Fan had done it with the highest standards. Even if the Buddhism sect's Freedom Courtyard were to build a branch, it would only be of this scale. Lei Fan had even specially selected a group of elite warriors from the guards of the northern frontier to guard the Dragon King Temple. In all aspects of bootlicking, Lei Fan was simply unmatched. After a series of operations, even Lin Yuan felt that it was a little ridiculous. But for some unknown reason, it was very useful. From a certain perspective, Lei Fan could be considered to have made preparations in advance. In the future, there would be no need to waste time to expand the temple. After all, things like gifting children and marriages to others were things that Lin Yuan was indeed unable to do. But to protect the northern frontier and ensure a smooth weather was not a problem for Lin Yuan, who had the blood sacrifice wishing technique. Even if Lin Yuan was unscrupulous and used special methods on those regions that did not believe in him, although he would not be popular, he would still be able to obtain the power of incense. In the stories, those villagers who had offered their children as blood sacrifices to the Dragon King, were they really willing? It was just that Lin Yuan didn't want to use such a despicable method. In the following period of time, the Blackwater Dragon King temples in the northern frontier would be built one after another, and the priests of each Dragon King temple would also meet with the representatives of the aquatic beasts in the northern frontier under the leadership of Lin Yuan. After all, the affairs in each region were basically communicated by the priests and the aquatic beasts. As long as things didn't become too big, Lin Yuan wouldn't show up. If he had to do everything by himself, why would he raise these subordinates? After he was done with most of the matters, Lin Yuan placed a strand of his divine will onto the golden snake statue that Lei Fan had hired a master sculptor to sculpt with a large sum of money. In this way, when the believers prayed to the snake statue, Lin Yuan would be able to sense it. And the more devout the believer was to Lin Yuan, the higher the possibility that Lin Yuan would be able to sense it. As for those who didn't have a sincere heart coming in to make a wish, Lin Yuan wouldn't be able to sense it at all. Even if Lin Yuan had the ability to fulfill the wishes of others, it wouldn't be like doing charity, as long as they were willing to come to his Blackwater Dragon King temple to pray. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to maintain the nobility and mystery of the gods, Lin Yuan would even want to equate the power of incense with wishes to make a deal with these believers. However, in the early stages, even if Lin Yuan was able to attract a certain number of believers, the other party might not be able to provide him with much power of incense. Therefore, at this initial stage, every time Lin Yuan fulfilled the wishes of others, It could be said that he was making a loss. After the divine will was engraved, Lin Yuan smiled gently. Although it was only a strand of divine will now, after it had absorbed enough power of incense, this strand of divine will would give birth to its own intelligence and become a special existence that belonged to Lin Yuan but had its own will. One day, it could even condense its own physical body and become the Lord Dragon King of all places. Regarding Lin Yuan's apotheosis and temple building, every move was observed by countless forces. However, most of them felt that Lin Yuan was just wasting the resources and time in his hands to do some useless work. After all, at this moment, Lin Yuan was the leader of the younger generation of the demonic beasts in the entire Hengduan Mountains. He might not be the strongest, but his growth rate was the fastest among the demonic beasts. For such an existence, the cultivation of the Yang spirit and the Yin spirit seemed to be of no use. Only a few existences who had suffered losses at the hands of Lin Yuan would show a thoughtful look when faced with Lin Yuan's strange behavior. Since the birth of the black serpent, it was not that it had never suffered losses, but the existence that could make it suffer losses was absolutely rare. The black serpent would not waste time and energy on inexplicable things, so they were now very curious about what the black serpent's actions at this juncture meant. Xinwu Dynasty, the inner city of the imperial capital, Imperial Study. Lei Qiuxing crossed his arms in front of his chest, and a dignified expression appeared on his dignified face. Although he did not know what the black serpent wanted to do, he was very clear that once the black serpent was completely apotheosized in the northern frontier, it would be completely impossible for him to take back the ruling power of the northern frontier in the future. After all, the ruler of the northern frontier could be changed, but the people of the northern frontier were still the same people. As long as they believed in the black serpent would never die. No matter what means he used to rule the northern frontier belonged to the Xinwu dynasty, but it was an existence independent of the imperial court. Your Majesty, you don't have to worry. What the black serpent wants is not necessarily to rule the northern frontier. Zhang Xiu smiled, but a cold light flashed in his eyes. He said in a deep voice, I have heard that the dragon clan of the four seas have bloodline shackles in their bodies. If they want to break these shackles, they must become a god and use the power of faith to complete the transformation of their bloodline. Otherwise, they must be trapped in a place and find a new path that does not rely on the power of their bloodline. In fact, there were very few monsters who chose to cultivate themselves instead of awakening the power of their bloodline. It was like asking a rich second generation not to spend a single cent of the property left by their ancestors, and to go out to work to earn money. It was possible but not necessary. This was especially so for the members of the dragon race of the four seas. They would not choose to walk their own path. After all, the dragon race was a race that had existed since the ancient times. Anything that was related to the dragon race could be described as precious and powerful. The path that the younger generation found might not be as powerful as inheriting the power of the bloodline. Transforming into a dragon? Lei Qiuxing's face was as gloomy as water. He narrowed his eyes and asked. Now the other party was just a black serpent, but it had already gained the title of Berserk Python. If this black serpent was allowed to complete the steps of transforming into a dragon, would it really become an existence like the Dragon King in the future? Here it comes again. Zhang Xiu rubbed his eyebrows helplessly and said in a deep voice, Your Majesty, I have said before that the black serpent is willing to accept the imperial edict. It means that it has no intention of being enemies with us for the time being. If the Xinwu dynasty was at its peak, I would naturally advise Your Majesty to kill the black serpent as soon as possible. But now, it is impossible. Chapter 303. Qingjiang Dynasty and Shuangjian Dynasty were still stationed at the border, and there was still Qingpeng King who had gathered his troops to rebel. The Xinwu Dynasty was not as powerful as before, and it could even be said that it was on the verge of collapse. The troubles at hand had not been solved yet, and this emperor actually wanted to fight with Black Snake? If it were not for Lei Qiuxing's almost abnormal desire for power and control, he and the aristocratic families in the Xinwu dynasty would not be in such a situation today. His twin brother Lei Qiuming would not have to start a rebellion, And that terrifying force that could casually point out the four major forces to encircle and suppress the Shinwu dynasty would not have fallen out with the Shinwu dynasty. Every sip and every peck is predetermined. Now, all the consequences that Lei Qiuxing was facing were the cause that he had sown in the past. But then again, if it were not for Lei Qiuxing's absolute control over the Shinwu dynasty, this new dynasty that was born out of the destruction of the Wanjian dynasty would not have leaped to become a feared existence among the 7 dynasties. Therefore, no one could say whether this kind of ruling method was good or bad. Humph! Lei Qiuxing snorted heavily and said in a cold voice, I would rather have my foundation fall into the hands of others than let a demonic beast grow big under my eyes. Zhang Xiu, let me ask you one more time. I want you to go to the northern frontier to kill that black snake. Will you go or not? Your Majesty, Zhang Xiu's expression was difficult. He frowned and said, Now that the remnants of the Jiu clan have reached the end of their tether, they have strangely stopped all their actions. I suspect that the remnants of the Jiu clan will soon erupt with a more terrifying side. If I leave the emperor now, I'm afraid there will be a change in the imperial capital. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Without the support of the Hengduan mountain range, the remaining members of the Jiao clan were like grasshoppers after autumn. They wouldn't be able to survive for more than a few days. As long as Black Snake didn't die, they would be abandoned. However, if Black Snake died in their hands, the Hengduan mountain range wouldn't let go of these traitorous pawns. In addition, Black Snake still had the Demon Emperor Association in his hands. There was no need for him to play with the remaining members of the Jiao clan. Even if Black Snake was willing, the Demon Emperor Association wouldn't agree. At this moment, the surviving members of the Jiao family were doing their last craziness before they were destroyed. As long as they had a chance, there was nothing they couldn't do. Lei Qiuxing's face darkened when he heard Zhang Xiu's concern. Lei Qiuxing slowly put down his crossed arms and said with a fake smile, Zhang Xiu, you mean to say that you are looking down on me, right? The Shenwu dynasty was all alone. Everything is under my control. Even if you weren't in the imperial capital, what can a bunch of surviving members of the previous dynasty do? Lei Qiuxing was extremely dissatisfied with Zhang Xiu's belittling. Zhang Xiu could only smile bitterly for a moment, and didn't dare to say anything else. Lei Qiuxing might be a mighty ruler, but Lei Qiuxing, who was born in the military, didn't like to play politics. Lei Qiuxing treated those dirty tricks as something that only trash would play. If he really wanted Lei Qiuxing to fight with the remaining members of the Jiao clan, the only possibility was that the embroidered uniform guards in the imperial capital would suffer heavy losses. After all, His Majesty was used to crushing everything. It wasn't impossible for him to follow the clues and drag out his opponents one by one. However, he would have to suffer a few losses first. Unfortunately, the Shenwu dynasty's strength in all aspects was very tight. Even a small pawn couldn't be casually mobilized, let alone killed. For a moment, the ruler and subject fell into a strange silence. Neither of them spoke first. In the end, Lei Qiuxing sighed deeply and said in a low voice, Fine. Although I don't know why you insist on protecting this black snake. You and I have been ruler and subject for many years. Our friendship surpasses that of brothers. I'll listen to you this time, but I don't want the next time. Lin Yuan didn't know that the turmoil from the Shenwu dynasty had bin suppressed by Zhang Xiu's insistence before it had even begun. However, to him, the real trouble had already come knocking on his door. Black Snake, this is the first time we've officially met, right? The shrunken lord looked like a true pure-blooded dragon. He was covered in crimson scales and had 4 sharp claws. Just looking at him was enough to give Lin Yuan a huge shock. However, Lin Yuan could see that the other party's appearance was just a skin bag. There wasn't even a trace of dragon blood in his body. How should I address you? Lin Yuan raised his eyelids and asked in a relaxed tone. He was no longer the little black snake that the other party could casually crush with a wave of his hand. Now, whether it was his strength or his status, they had both greatly improved. Not to mention, he also had the secret of this lord in his hands. Even if there was a difference of 2 realms, Lin Yuan could still communicate with the other party on equal terms with a calm face. Now Zhu Xian could directly tear him apart if he didn't agree with him. However, he could also guarantee that as long as he died in Zhu Xian's hands, the fact that Zhu Xian was a purgatory demon beast would soon be known by everyone. At that time, whether it was the Hengduan mountain range or the Seven Dynasties, there would be no place for Zhu Xian. This was Lin Yuan's confidence now. Zhu Xian. The Lord wasn't angry. He just smiled gently and said in a low voice, "I'm here today to ask how long your subordinates plan to stay here with me. Also, what you promised me before, when will you do it?" When Zhu Xian first captured Mendu, he thought that Mendu was Black Snake's right-hand man. However, after Mendu left, Black Snake promoted Na Qin, and didn't seem to be affected at all. After being raised by Black Snake for so long, Zhu Xian suddenly realized that to Black Snake, no matter how the team changed, Black Snake was the absolute core of the team. No matter how the others changed, it wouldn't affect Black Snake. Mendu? Oh, I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it. Thank you for taking care of my subordinates during this period. Lin Yuan gave Zhu Xian an awkward but polite smile. Although he already knew that Mendu had been captured by Zhu Xian, Lin Yuan had been looking for the base of Zhu Xian's forces for the past 2.5 months. Although there were many purgatory demon beasts under Zhu Xian's command, their territories were not connected. They were scattered in the Hengduan mountain range, and were not close to the Stonetalan forest. Lin Yuan wanted to save Mendu, but he was powerless. He was about to give up, but he didn't expect Zhu Xian to come knocking on his door. Chapter 304. Zhu Xian never thought that Black Snake would be this shameless. Although Lin Yuan admitted that the sect was under Zhu Xian's control, he didn't mention a word about collecting the heart of purgatory. Was he planning to go back on his word? Zhu Xian's eyes suddenly became gloomy. I don't think that someone of your status would keep pressuring a little intelligence perception demonic beast, right? Or do you have some other ideas? Lin Yuan's eyes were obviously a bit of ridicule. Zhu Xian's face stiffened, and he said angrily, "Black Snake, don't play this game with me. Although the heart of purgatory isn't something that I must have, it's just to improve my cultivation progress. Compared to this, I don't like people lying to me. You know what will happen to you if I give up on obtaining the heart of purgatory, right?" Lin Yuan was silent. He didn't know what the heart of purgatory was, but if it could make an existence like Zhu Xian come out to set it up, it must be something extraordinary. So he really didn't think that Zhu Xian would give up on the heart of purgatory. But then again, although he wasn't afraid of Zhu Xian directly killing him, Zhu Xian just released a rumor, and the nearby demon beast clans, including the Green Marsh clan, didn't dare to provoke him. It seemed that Zhu Xian was definitely an overlord in the Hengduan mountain range. Even if he wasn't as strong as the three beast kings, he definitely wasn't far off. Lin Yuan could now smoothly manage the northern frontier because of Sabara's support. A great beast king level existence personally came to suppress him? That scene was too beautiful. Lin Yuan really didn't dare to think about it. Scared? Hee, I thought you weren't afraid of anything. Zhu Xian sneered and said with a gloomy face, "Black Snake, you know my secret, but I also know some of your little secrets. Do you think I've been paying attention to you for a day or two? Where did those strange demon beasts around you come from? Can you explain it clearly? Also, the dragon blood in your body is inexplicably becoming purer and purer. As Zhu Xian spoke, she suddenly noticed that Lin Yuan's eyes suddenly lit up, as if he had discovered something very interesting. At that time, Zhu Xian's heart suddenly quivered. She didn't continue speaking, but her eyes swept back and forth, as if she wanted to find something from the Black Snake. Especially at that moment, he even felt an aura of death above his head. It was as if some indescribably terrifying existence had passed through the endless void and looked at him. Behind you. Zhu Xian swallowed her saliva and said in a trembling voice. Previously, it was said that there was a demon arch behind the black serpent, but it still didn't believe it. After all, it had observed the black serpent for so long, and no one knew better than it whether there were other forces behind the black serpent. But from the looks of it now, not only was there an ancient demonic emperor behind the black snake, But it was also a demonic emperor at his peak. Just by glancing at it from across the endless void, it felt the terror of death. What kind of terrifying existence was this? With such strength, not to mention re-establishing the ancient demonic court, even if it swept across the entire Tianwu continent, no one would dare to stand up and say no. But such a terrifying existence refused to show itself. Instead, it put the black serpent out in the open for the world to see, enjoying all the riches that the black serpent should not have enjoyed. Perhaps this was a big shot? But whether or not there was a demonic emperor behind the black serpent, he was no longer interested, because he had already lost interest in the black serpent. Compared to the black serpent, there was a real substitute in the northern frontier. Although it was just a glimpse, Zhu Xian could still feel the noble dragon blood in Ao Qian's body. Although it was not as pure as the black serpent's, the blood in her body was more noble. Zhu Xian leaned forward, a cold look in his eyes, and said coldly, "Black serpent, there is no need for us to be enemies. As long as you are willing to cooperate with me, not only will I not continue to be your enemy, I can even form an alliance with you. Recently, the Beast Lord Kirin has found many suitable successors. With your talent, you should be one of them, right? The other successors all have the support of the desolate demonic realm, but you have nothing. Could it be?" At this point, Zhu Xian paused and said tentatively, "Can you bring out the demonic emperor behind you? I have to admit that among all the successors, your background is the most powerful. But if the demonic emperor behind you wanted to show himself, he would not have put you in this position." Although he did not know what the death threat was, he could still feel the threat from the other party. He could not reveal the other party's existence. Even if he knew, he had to continue playing dumb. Otherwise, he would be directly wiped out by the other party's terrifying power. This was the message that the other party had just conveyed. Originally, Zhu Xian did not want to mention this again, but now that only he and the black serpent were here, he did not need to worry too much about mentioning the demonic emperor. He only needed to tell the black serpent these words, and then bury them in his heart. Lin Yuan's mouth twitched slightly. Although he did not know why, he always felt that everyone who saw him felt that there was a demonic emperor from the ancient demonic court behind him. If he did not know that it was just something he made up to fool Su Nan, he might have believed it himself. However, Zhu Xian's words had indeed struck Lin Yuan's heart. The other successors that the Beast Lord Qilin had set his eyes on, regardless of their own strength or methods, would more or less have a desolate demon realm expert backing them. Even if they didn't have one, the entire clan would still have a few mountain lords. After all, some of the successors might not have been chosen for their own sake. It was only because they had powerful backing that they became targets for the Beast Lord Qilin's consideration. Of course, the chances of someone like that becoming the new Beast King were not high. The successor of the demonic Beast Court did not have a rule that said that they had to choose a suitable Beast King. If the new Beast King was willing, he could pass the position of Beast King to a member of his clan at any time. Of course, if the new Beast King was not strong enough, he would still be pulled down by other demonic beast clans in the forest. The theory of the law of the jungle was just that realistic. If the demonic beasts wanted to become Beast King, they just had to act. However, the problem now was that Lin Yuan did not have a desolate demon realm existence behind him. His strength was only at the peak of the wisdom realm. If Beast King Kirin was about to change positions, Lin Yuan might even be assassinated by some old bastards. Chapter 305. Cooperating with Mo Xian was like asking a tiger for its skin. These purgatory beasts that disguised themselves as ordinary demonic beasts were not very smart. They might become extremely irritable if provoked slightly. However, Mo Xian, who could control a group of purgatory beasts and even suppress their ferocious nature, was definitely an exception. To be able to climb to a position comparable to a great beast king as a purgatory beast, Mo Xian's strength and means were not inferior to those old foxes Lin Yuan had seen before. In fact, she was even better at enduring. If Lin Yuan could reach a cooperative relationship with Mo Xian, it seemed that there was indeed a desolate demon realm existence behind him. Moreover, It was a desolate demon that was comparable to a great beast king. However, seriously speaking, the relationship between Lin Yuan and Mo Xian could not be described as harmonious at all. There were two reasons for maintaining peace between the two sides. First, Lin Yuan's current strength was not enough, so he could not fall out with this purgatory beast who lusted after his body. Second, it was because of the existence of the Beast King Kirin. Although Lin Yuan did not know what level the Beast King Kirin had reached in the desolate demon realm, the Beast King Kirin's strength was definitely enough to crush Mo Xian, who was also in the desolate demon realm. This was also the reason why Mo Xian did not dare to fall out with Lin Yuan. If the Beast King Kirin was replaced, Mo Xian would soon lose his fear of Lin Yuan. He might even kill Lin Yuan and take control of the Hengduan Mountains himself. Therefore, Mo Xian's proposal was complete nonsense in Lin Yuan's eyes. After all, although these guys all think that there is a demon emperor behind them, in fact, Lin Yuan himself still has the most right to say whether there is a demon emperor behind them or not. He is just a cheater with a system. He is really not a chess piece that the big boss arranged in the Hengduan Mountains. The Beast King Kirin was real. He could be seen and touched. Therefore, as long as the Beast King Kirin was alive, Mo Xian's fear of Kirin would remain. However, the shifter emperor behind Kirin was different. After all, it was only a legendary existence. It was fine to not see him for a day or two, but after a long time, some people would think that Lin Yuan was just making up a shifter emperor to scare them. What do you want? Lin Yuan slightly narrowed his eyes and took the initiative to ask. Mo Xian licked his lips and sneered. Didn't a dragon race that came to find you some time ago? I want you to cooperate with me and trick that dragon race to collect the heart of purgatory. Once I devour it, the biggest problem between us will no longer exist. It's good for both of us. What do you think? Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and almost blurted out the word, F***ck off. Ao Qian's status in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was definitely not low. It would be fine if she left Lin Yuan's territory safely. However, if something happened to Ao Qian in his territory, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would be the first to settle the score with him. By then, no matter how many lives he had, he wouldn't be enough for these dragons to kill. Seeing that Lin Yuan didn't speak, Mo Xian's eyes hardened. However, he knew that this wasn't the time to push too hard. He could only narrow his eyes and say, Black Snake, I'll give you enough time to consider. As long as this dragon race doesn't leave your territory, I can wait patiently for your reply. However, if this dragon race leaves, we will be in a situation where we won't rest until one of us dies. Lin Yuan just snorted at Mo Xian's threat. If you're so awesome, why didn't I see you go to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas and capture a dragon race to go with your wine? Watching Jiao Xian leave, the waves in Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes slowly jumped. It's here. Someone was making a wish in the Blackwater Dragon King Temple. After all, there was still a period where there were no believers. Therefore, Lin Yuan didn't have the qualifications to sit high in the sky like the gods in his previous life and completely ignore the suffering of the world. Therefore, in the face of a mortal's prayer, Lin Yuan still had to respond. Blackwater Dragon King Temple, Dragon King Hall. A beautiful woman in luxurious clothes knelt on a futon with her hands clasped together. Next to her was a priest who was muttering something. It was said that he was communicating with the gods. However, Lin Yuan didn't know who this priest was communicating with. In any case, he couldn't understand this kind of bird language. The golden snake statue twisted, and soon, a transparent snake head drilled out of the statue. A pair of vertical pupils fixed on the rich woman who had her hands clasped together. In a dignified voice it said, "Mortal, speak your wish." Seeing that the black snake had responded so quickly, a touch of joy flashed across the beautiful woman's face. Then, she slowly began to speak her wish. The beautiful woman's surname was Zhen. Her husband was a rich merchant from the Xinwu dynasty. Some time ago, when he came to Shunning City to trade goods, he disappeared without a trace. She almost asked all her friends and looked for a lot of connections, but she didn't get any news. It was as if her husband had mysteriously disappeared from the world. In order to find out her husband's whereabouts, the beautiful woman even went to the Zizai courtyard. She donated a lot of money, but she didn't get any response from the gods. For this kind of situation, the Zen master of the Zazai courtyard didn't just push the blame away once or twice. He very skillfully told her that the gods didn't respond to her because she was not sincere. In desperation, the beautiful woman heard that the Shenwu dynasty had just conferred a god in the northern frontier. Although it was a god who ruled the water realm, it was still a god, wasn't it? Anyway, in the eyes of a mortal like her, a god should be omniscient and omnipotent. So, she didn't care about her desperate behavior at all. She simply went to the Blackwater Dragon King temple that had just been built. Even she didn't believe it, but the black snake really quickly gave her a response. Looking for someone. A touch of helplessness flashed across Lin Yuan's vertical pupils. Ding, congratulations to the host. Special mission activated. The First Believer's Prayer. Name. The First Believer's Prayer description. As the new Dragon King of the Northern Frontier, nothing in this land can escape your eyes. Please help the woman surnamed Jun find her husband. Reward. Obtain a Fanatic Believer, unlock a subfunction of the incense model, conversion, punishment, none subfunction, conversion affiliation. Incense model function. The host can convert the power of incense into various kinds of energy. At the same time the system prompt sounded, Lin Yuan took a deep breath and looked at the beautiful woman meaningfully. Fortunately, the other party's wish was only to find her husband. If it was really a guy who came to ask for a child with a lot of money, Lin Yuan reckoned that he would directly give up this mission. Although the reward was quite generous, if he couldn't do something, he should give up before the punishment. Was he going to brace himself and trick the other party? Chapter 306. With my blood, I grant your wish. Lin Yuan's voice slowly sounded, his pair of vertical pupils fixed on the beautiful woman's face. His main body far away in Shunning City also simultaneously activated the blood sacrifice wishing technique. The beautiful woman was just an ordinary person, so her wish shouldn't be difficult to fulfill. After all, it was very difficult for a cultivator to marry an ordinary person and still be so loving. Therefore, Lin Yuan speculated that the beautiful woman's husband should also be an ordinary person, so finding this person didn't require much blood at all. But just to be safe, Lin Yuan still extracted 1/7 of his blood at once as a sacrifice for the blood sacrifice wishing technique. However, after the 1/7 of his blood was extracted, Lin Yuan's expression instantly stiffened, because he didn't receive any prompt from the blood sacrifice wishing technique. The causality technique always had a certain failure rate, but the blood sacrifice wishing technique was a special technique that could increase the success rate through sacrifices. For example, if Lin Yuan wanted to summon a thunderstorm now, he only needed a few drops of blood to do it. After all, he had already become a peak wisdom realm demon beast. As his strength gradually increased, doing something similar was just a thought away, and he didn't even need to pay a sacrifice. But now the technique failed because the system determined that 1/7 of Lin Yuan's blood was simply not enough to find the beautiful woman's husband. This was a very thought-provoking matter. Was the beautiful woman's husband extraordinary? Or was the existence that captured the beautiful woman's husband extraordinary? Or was it both? I really don't believe it. Lin Yuan's pupils suddenly contracted, and he clenched his teeth and began to make a ruthless decision. After all, this was the first time the Blackwater Dragon King showed his skills after becoming the main god of the northern frontier. If he failed or was humiliated, Lin Yuan wouldn't be able to face himself. Moreover, the mission reward was quite generous, so Lin Yuan didn't want to give up. 1/3 of the blood in Lin Yuan's body mysteriously evaporated. Lin Yuan, who was coiled up in the room, suddenly felt his aura wither. He gasped for air as if he would die at any moment. Except for some special creatures, most creatures would die once they lost too much blood. They didn't have to wait for all the blood in their bodies to be drained. Therefore, the previous 1/7 and the current 1/3 of his blood was a dangerous number for Lin Yuan. After all, he was just a cheater with a system. His body wasn't digitized like a game character to the point that he could run and jump with only 1% of his HP left. At this moment, in the Blackwater Dragon King Temple, Lin Yuan's divine sense shook violently and almost dissipated. The beautiful woman and the priestess beside her were shocked. Who would have thought that the newly appointed god of the northern region would almost vanish into thin air, just by trying to figure out the whereabouts of a human? That Lord Dragon King. The beautiful woman opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. Although she didn't believe that the Blackwater Dragon King could find her husband, he was still helping her. Therefore, she didn't say a word even if she wanted to. After all, the Dragon King in front of her was much better than other people. Your husband is in Shunning City, in the Qiao family in the east of the city. Before the beautiful woman could finish speaking, Lin Yuan had already opened his mouth slowly. Previously, he was still wondering why he couldn't deduce the whereabouts of an ordinary person with 1/7 of his blood. However, now that the Qiao family in Shunning City was involved, Lin Yuan began to feel relieved. The Qiao family in the northern frontier was one of the oldest families in the Xinwu dynasty. They had been passed down since the Wanjian dynasty. Although they didn't have a Kongming realm existence, they had a total of 9 heaven realm existences. If it wasn't for the Qiao family's lack of interest in conflicts between major forces, Lin Yuan might not have been able to conquer Shunning City with the Qiao family's presence. The Qiao family's strength on the surface was enough to sweep across the northern frontier in the past. Lin Yuan's gaze lingered on the beautiful woman's face for a moment. He asked in confusion, "Why? Aren't you surprised to hear that your husband is in the Qiao family?" Could it be that this woman didn't know what kind of existence the Qiao family was? Thinking about it carefully, it was quite possible. Although the Qiao family was powerful, they kept a very low profile. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin Yuan had a monopoly on the spiritual item business, and the Qiao family took the initiative to cooperate with him, Lin Yuan, the actual ruler of the northern frontier, wouldn't have known that such a powerful family was hidden under his command. Plop. As soon as Lin Yuan finished speaking, the beautiful woman directly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Lin Yuan. She repeatedly said, "May I be so bold as to ask Lord Dragon King to save my husband?" Lin Yuan. Frankly speaking, when he reported the location of the beautiful woman's husband, the quest submission column was still grayed out. He had a vague premonition that something bad was about to happen, and now, it really came true. Lin Yuan was silent for a moment. He slightly narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Since you're begging me to save your husband, then you should know why the Qiao family took your husband, right? Tell me clearly. Otherwise, I won't do anything. If I find out that you dared to lie to me, you and your husband won't be able to leave the northern frontier alive." Lin Yuan was now considered a business partner of the Qiao family. If the beautiful woman's husband didn't have a death feud with the Qiao family, the Qiao family would more or less give him some face if he went to ask for his husband. However, if the beautiful woman's husband had an irreconcilable feud with the Qiao family, his reputation as the ruler of the northern frontier might not be useful. If they really fought, although he wasn't afraid of the Qiao family, the one who would suffer in the end would still be the entire northern frontier. Hearing Lin Yuan's words, the beautiful woman also clearly heaved a sigh of relief. Although this newly appointed god of the northern frontier wasn't strong, this Blackwater Dragon King still had a breath of righteousness in his heart. If she begged the other forces of the northern frontier for the same thing, she would most likely be rejected. Some of the lackeys who flattered the Qiao family would even take the initiative to report this matter to the Qiao family. Even forces with Void Realm experts wouldn't easily provoke the Qiao family. This was the face of the Qiao family in the northern frontier. However, this Blackwater Dragon King expressed that he was willing to stand up for her. Lin Yuan didn't know what the beautiful woman was thinking at this moment. He was very clear that whether or not he could transform into a dragon depended on this incense template. Therefore, after the first mission was issued, Lin Yuan didn't want to fail no matter what. As for the Qiao family, in the eyes of other forces, they might be an existence not to be trifled with, but in Lin Yuan's eyes, they were just one of the many lice. Anyway, lice didn't itch when there were too many of them. Chapter 307. My husband was once a member of the Qiao clan. His cultivation aptitude could be said to be monstrous. The previous head of the Chow clan said that he had the potential to break through to the Heaven Dipper realm before the age of 30. However, because he wasn't a direct descendant of the Chow clan, he was secretly poisoned by the son of the current head of the Chow clan, which destroyed my husband's cultivation path. After that, my husband went to a foreign land and built a business that is comparable to the richest in the region with the identity of an ordinary person. I didn't expect that the Chow clan still wouldn't let my husband go. They took the opportunity when my husband came to the northern frontier to purchase spiritual items to kidnap my husband. Although I don't know why the Chow clan did this, I feel that it might be related to a secret that my husband knew. If Lord Dragon King can help me rescue my husband and guarantee that we can safely leave the northern frontier, I am willing to hand over this secret. The beautiful woman bowed slightly with a hint of sorrow in her eyes. Lin Yuan's gaze swept back and forth across the beautiful woman's face. His eyes also revealed a hint of contemplation. After all, he wasn't a divine beast like the Xieji that was born to see through people's hearts and see through lies. Therefore, he could only guess what the beautiful woman said. For an aristocratic clan like the Chow clan that had been passed down since ancient times, their foundation was already here. If they continued to forge ahead, it would very likely cause some people or forces to be dissatisfied and bring about an unexpected disaster. Therefore, to them, stability had to be placed in front of all options. A prodigy from a side branch might be a good thing for a small or medium-sized clan, but for a top-notch clan like the Chow clan, it was very likely to cause unrest in the clan. Therefore, it wasn't impossible for the Chow clan to kill this prodigy in advance. After killing this prodigy's cultivation path, he could still leave the northern frontier safely and go to other places to develop. It should be the Chow clan's compensation after the incident. Then, what kind of secret did he know that the Chow clan would suddenly make things difficult for him and directly detain him in the northern frontier? Did this secret exist or not? Or rather, what exactly was this secret? Seeing that Lin Yuan didn't speak, the beautiful woman deliberated for a moment before slowly saying, "Lord Dragon King, I am not an unreasonable person. As long as you are willing to go to the Chow clan and ask for him, I will tell this secret to Lord Dragon King whether you succeed or not." "Alright, then this king will give it a try." Lin Yuan nodded, and then sent his divine thought into the statue again. This strand of his divine thought had not been baptized by the power of incense, so it was unbelievably weak. Previously, when his main body used the blood sacrifice wishing technique, his vitality was greatly damaged, and even this strand of divine thought almost collapsed. He might have to recuperate in the statue for a long time before he could come out. Hopefully, the beautiful woman's secret was valuable enough. Otherwise, even if he obtained the quest reward, Lin Yuan's heart would still be filled with resentment. After entering the statue, no one disturbed Lin Yuan, and his mind gradually became active. If the secret of the beautiful woman's husband was related to the northern frontier, then Lin Yuan was confident that he could take him down. As for the beautiful woman's thoughts, they didn't escape Lin Yuan's eyes. She would tell him this secret regardless of whether he got the person or not. The Chow clan had stood tall in the northern frontier for so many years. They had experienced 3 generations of rulers: Myriad Sword, Divine Marshal, and Lin Yuan. It was impossible for them not to have any means to inquire. Therefore, whether Lin Yuan could get the person or not, the Chow clan would know the secret. If it involved a wide range of people, the Chow clan wouldn't give up even if they had a falling out. After all, seeking stability and keeping a low profile wasn't the same as building a car behind closed doors. If the beautiful woman told this secret to Lin Yuan, then Lin Yuan and the Chow clan would definitely clash. Even if he, as the new ruler of the northern frontier, wasn't a match for the Chow clan, he would still be able to bring some damage to the Chow clan. It could be considered as helping the Chow clan vent their resentment. As for what would happen to Lin Yuan after this, naturally, she didn't consider it. Even if Lin Yuan defeated the Chow clan, his future actions in the northern frontier would be difficult. After all, the Chow clan was the representative of the northern frontier's aristocratic families. If Lin Yuan made a move against the Chow clan, the remaining small and medium-sized aristocratic families would naturally feel insecure. When the time came, It wasn't impossible for the aristocratic families in the northern frontier to unite and resist Lin Yuan. Even if in Lin Yuan's plan, the aristocratic families were originally a force to be defeated, but now that the development of the northern frontier had just begun, they were completely unprepared. They would definitely suffer some losses. The stinger of a wasp's tail, the mouth of a green bamboo snake, both were not poisonous, but a woman's heart was the most poisonous. The lessons that countless people in his previous life summed up with blood and tears sometimes would come true. 15 minutes later, Lin Yuan, who had recovered some of his strength, finally didn't look weak from his face. He wriggled his snake body and walked towards the Qiao clan's residence. The Qiao clan's residence was located in the east of Shunning City. The scale of the residence wasn't large, covering an area of 60,000 miles. If it was in Lin Yuan's previous life, it could be considered a first-class mansion. But in this world where the residences of officials and princes could easily cover an area of 1 to 200,000 miles, the Qiao clan's residence was not only not large, it could even be said to be a little shabby. It was completely unworthy of the terrifying background of the Qiao clan. Under Lin Yuan's rule of the northern frontier, the style was completely different from before. Regardless of whether it was humans or demonic beasts, they could freely enter and leave the various human settlements and trade. As for the demonic beasts hunting and gathering of demonic beasts, they all stopped at the demonic beast forest in the periphery of the Hengduan mountain range. Without Lin Yuan's permission, there was simply no human who dared to take half a step into the Hengduan mountain range. Otherwise, even if they were eaten alive by the demonic beasts, no one would stand up for them. Similarly, although the demonic beasts could freely enter and leave the human settlements, no one could do whatever they wanted. Once the demonic beasts intentionally harmed humans in the human settlements, there was simply no need for the northern frontier's human forces to make a move. Lin Yuan would personally capture the demonic beasts, and after a thorough investigation, he would give both parties a satisfactory explanation. As an existence that had been nurtured on Earth, Lin Yuan was very clear that regardless of whether it was humans or demonic beasts on the Tianwu continent, their ideals were actually wrong. Between two intelligent races, whether it was the strength of the difference in status, but both sides should maintain a relationship of coexistence and prosperity, and should not be dominated by one side. Once the oppression was prolonged, even a lamb would bare its teeth. As for Lin Yuan's concept of coexistence and prosperity, although many people did not understand, when used in the northern frontier, the effect was exceptionally outstanding, and could even be said to be perfect. In other places, humans and demonic beasts would not be able to live in harmony, but in the northern frontier, all of them had to obediently abide by the rules. After all, in each settlement, the law enforcers were formed by both humans and demonic beasts. Furthermore, it was a rotation system. It was simply impossible to cover up the sky, cover up, and be biased. Chapter 308. The Qiao family was the Qiao family after all. They were a family that had been around for nearly 1,000 years. Their power and resources were far beyond what ordinary people could imagine. As soon as Lin Yuan stepped into the east side of the city, he suddenly felt darkness in front of him. A black wave of people appeared before him. Even the weakest among them was at level 7 of the mortal evolution state. There were a few empty spaces in the depths of the crowd. Although Lin Yuan didn't look closely, he could sense that there were airborne realm beings coming from those empty spaces. And this was just a corner of the east side of the city. A show of strength. A cold light flashed in Lin Yuan's multicolored eyes. After all, his current appearance was unique in the entire northern frontier. He had black dragon scales with gold inlaid on top of one blue eye, and the other ice-colored eye. There was no other beast that looked like this. Therefore, as soon as Lin Yuan appeared in Shunning City, the Qiao family probably got the news and quickly organized people, planning to show Lin Yuan who was stronger. It made sense. Someone at Lin Yuan's level wouldn't be so free as to wander around. He must have a purpose for appearing in Shunning City. In addition, he was heading straight for the Qiao family's territory in the east side of the city. The people in charge of the Qiao family were no fools. Of course, they would react. But Lin Yuan slowly closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, a golden light suddenly flashed in his heterochromatic vertical pupils. An invisible pressure spread from Lin Yuan. The countless human cultivators standing in front of him didn't even have time to be fierce to Lin Yuan before Lin Yuan glared at them. Boom! It was as if a bomb exploded in their minds. These human cultivators instantly felt their minds go blank. Then, when they finally woke up and looked at Lin Yuan, some fear was born in their hearts for some reason. It was as if the one standing there wasn't a black snake that ruled the northern frontier, but a real dragon descendant hiding in the deep sea. Make way. When Lin Yuan saw that the crowd was in a mess, he struck while the iron was hot. The song of the tyrant of the world was launched in an instant. Suddenly, it was like a heavy hammer that smashed heavily into the crowd. Even some humans with slightly weaker willpower were so scared that they lost control of their bowels just by looking at Lin Yuan twice. Some of them even ran away recklessly. This was a talent skill that the system rewarded Lin Yuan when the bloodline transformation progress bar reached 90%. Dragon's Aura. As a dragon, you are born with an incomparable majesty. When you activate Dragon's Aura, your target has a 5% chance of falling into a state of extreme panic, 15% chance of falling into a state of panic, and 60% chance of falling into a state of panic. Note 1. Only one skill effect can be triggered. For example, an existence that enters a state of panic cannot enter a state of extreme panic. Note 2. This skill is ineffective against targets whose realm is higher than yours. It will not cause the target to fall into panic, but it will have a certain degree of deterrence. Note 3. This skill has no cooldown time, but it can only be used once in 3 days on the same target. Among the human cultivators present, there was no one with a higher cultivation base than Lin Yuan. Therefore, the Dragon Might skill was launched very smoothly by Lin Yuan. Even if there were a few humans who guessed the probability and did not fall into a state of panic, the chaos around them at the moment naturally affected their rhythm. Even a large number of them did not know why they were running away, but their bodies had already fled with the crowd first. The combination of the tyrant of the world song and dragon might was terrifying. Lin Yuan even felt that if he used these two skills at the same time, he could directly turn a group of well-trained human troops into a defeated army. Of course, this was just Lin Yuan's imagination. After all, a well-trained army almost always had a willpower as strong as steel. Although they would still be affected by Lin Yuan's dragon might, it was unlikely that they would run away directly. However, when this skill was used on these ordinary cultivators who could only be regarded as wandering soldiers at best, it was no different from throwing a huge rock into the deep sea, instantly stirring up stormy waves. Lin Yuan continued forward. Wherever he passed, the human cultivators all made way, even forgetting their initial purpose of blocking this place. Even the few airborne realm beings hiding in the crowd retreated one after another. They were even more afraid of Lin Yuan than those mortal evolution realm cultivators. After all, with their level, it was easier for them to feel the absolute difference in power between the two sides. In front of Lin Yuan, they were not much different from those mortal evolution realm beings. In any case, Lin Yuan could easily crush them with a casual blow. There was no resistance at all. After passing through the outermost sea of people, Lin Yuan continued to move in the direction of the Qiao family's residence. Soon 3 tall figures blocked in front of Lin Yuan again. The leader was a middle-aged man with a mustache. He had very high cheekbones, clear eyes, and an elegant and easygoing temperament. However, those who knew this middle-aged man's existence only had a deep fear of him. After all, this man almost wiped out the other aristocratic families in Shunning City, causing the Qiao family to be the dominant family today. The few aristocratic families who could join forces to fight with the Qiao family either fled far away, or were beaten to the bottom, becoming one of the small, insignificant families in the eyes of others. Qiao Yilin, the current head of the Qiao family. I didn't know that Lord Dragon King had arrived. Please forgive me for not coming out to greet you. Qiao Yilin saluted Lin Yuan from afar, but his calm voice sounded as if it was right next to Lin Yuan's ear. He was ranked 3rd among the direct descendants of the Qiao family, and was also one of the Heaven Dipper realm beings in the Qiao family. He could be considered a powerful figure of the middle generation. Lin Yuan acted as if he didn't see the sea of people just now. He nodded naturally and said, "It's fine." As his voice fell, Qiao Yilin's face stiffened. He didn't know how to continue the conversation. The Qiao family's actions couldn't be considered a lack of welcome. It could even be said that the Qiao family wanted to show Lin Yuan their power with great fanfare. According to Black Snake's rumored warmonger personality, he would either choose to admit defeat and obediently give the Qiao family face or fly into a rage and directly attack the Qiao family. Both were within Qiao Yilin's expectations. However, Black Snake's actions directly stunned Qiao Yilin. "It's fine. It's fine, my foot." Qiao Yilin, who choked on his words, had a look of discomfort on his face. Although he didn't know how to continue Lin Yuan's words, he still played along and said with a fake smile, "Lord Dragon King, an honored guest has arrived. I still don't know what's so important that Lord Dragon King would personally come to my humble abode?" Chapter 309. Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes. Seeing that the other party had changed the topic so quickly, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. He slowly said, "It's not a big deal, but I have a friend who was detained by your Qiao clan. He hasn't been home for nearly half a month. His wife came to me, crying and begging me to ask about the Qiao clan." The moment he finished speaking, the smile on Qiao Yilin's face froze. Although he had already guessed that Black Snake's visit wouldn't be anything good, he really didn't expect that Black Snake would come for that guy. Did that mean that Black Snake was also here for that secret realm? After all, as the #1 clan in the northern frontier, the Qiao clan naturally cared about their reputation. They couldn't casually detain someone for such a small matter. In the past, when no one was in charge, the Qiao clan didn't dare to be so arrogant. Now that Lin Yuan had taken charge of the northern frontier, the first thing he did was set new rules, and rules that were beneficial to everyone. Even if the Qiao clan had the guts, they wouldn't dare to risk angering the public. In addition, it had been half a month. Even if Qiao Yilin hadn't thought of that abandoned son of the Qiao clan, he should have understood by now. Of course, an existence of Lin Yuan's level wouldn't just wander around. Although one wouldn't visit a temple for no reason, he definitely wouldn't make a trip to Shunning City just to say hello to the Qiao clan. It was just that Qiao Yilin hadn't thought of this at all. Although that abandoned son of the Qiao clan had done quite a lot of business with the Qiao clan's support, in front of a true expert, it was still not worth mentioning. No matter how much wealth he had, without strength, he couldn't protect his mountain of gold and silver. Therefore, they didn't think that the abandoned son of the Qiao clan would actually make contact with a troublesome existence like Lin Yuan. At first, the Qiao clan wanted to take Lin Yuan down a notch because they had more or less heard some rumors. Lin Yuan intended to open academies all over the northern frontier. Not only would he teach children how to read and write, but he would also open up cultivation methods to these students to a certain extent. Once they joined the academy and became an instructor, there was a chance that they would be able to obtain a higher-level cultivation method from Black Snake. After all, on the surface, the Black Snake was just a smokescreen for the primordial demon emperor. With a powerful being behind him, any cultivation technique that came out of the Black Snake's hands would be labeled as powerful and mysterious. Qiao Yilin didn't even need to wait for that day to come. He only needed to think about it to know that once the Northern Region Lord's Mansion issued this decree, it would be a terrifying attraction to those idle cultivators, and how much support it would receive from the common people. From a long-term perspective, once Lin Yuan issued this decree, the quality of talents in the entire northern frontier would rapidly increase by a large margin. It would only stop after reaching an extremely high level. It was even possible for the northern frontier to surpass the 7 empires. Although this was a good thing for the northern frontier, it was a terrible thing for the noble families, clans, and sects. What right did they have to stand aloof from the world and enjoy the adoration and worship of countless ordinary people? This was because they possessed knowledge, power, cultivation methods, and power. Once Lin Yuan opened an academy in the northern frontier, then everyone in the northern frontier would stand on the same starting line as the disciples of the noble families and sects. At that time, if one didn't have exceptional talent, one might not be able to continue standing at the peak of the northern frontier. Moreover, the population of the northern frontier was there. Even if there were only 10 geniuses in a generation, then at least 6 of them were hidden among the common people. Once these hidden geniuses began to display their talents, they would definitely be greatly nurtured by the noble families of the northern frontier. After all, with the Hungduan mountain range behind them, even if the noble families of the northern frontier were still very weak, they could invest countless times more resources in nurturing talents. So what if they weren't cultivation geniuses? Who would be willing to lower themselves to become someone's servant after studying and learning the principles and knowledge of how to be a person? Without these servants, who would cultivate the large amount of land controlled by the noble families and sects of the northern frontier? Could it be that these high and mighty cultivators had to personally work in the fields? When the time came, these abandoned lands could only be purchased by the noble families of the northern frontier at a low price and returned to public land, distributed to the common people in the northern frontier, who relied on farming for a living. Although they were all farmers, farming for the noble families and sects and farming for the noble families of the northern frontier were two different things. After all, one needed to pay taxes twice, while the other only needed to pay taxes once. Even an idiot would know which one to choose. This government decree that might be issued, but it might also be a groundless rumor. Without a doubt, it was a desperate plan, a plan that could directly cut off the foundations of many powers in the northern frontier. If this continued, the only voice left in the northern frontier would be the noble families of the northern frontier. Meanwhile, the noble families of the northern frontier that relied on the resources provided by Lin Yuan to support large amounts of talents would soon be completely overthrown, becoming a chess piece that could be casually played with in the hands of Lin Yuan. When he first received this news, Qiao Yilin instantly broke out in cold sweat from fright. However, it wasn't that there weren't any capable people within the noble families of the northern frontier. They knew that after this government decree was issued, the northern frontier would completely become Lin Yuan's sole authority. Therefore, their internal opinions had always been divided, and this was the key reason why the government decree was stuck. In addition, Lin Yuan had been constantly pressuring them recently, so the Qiao family and the other noble families were also very uneasy. They had always wanted to find an opportunity to flex their muscles for Lin Yuan to show that the noble families and sects of the northern frontier weren't so weak that they could be bullied. It was just that they hadn't found the right opportunity. After all, if they rashly showed their muscles, it would be easier for Lin Yuan to clean them up. What, is it inconvenient? A fake smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face, and a trace of ridicule flashed in his eyes. Although he couldn't tell if the beautiful woman's words were true or false, Qiao Yilin's reaction had already told him that the beautiful woman's words were indeed true. At the very least, that secret really existed. Moreover, even the Qiao family attached great importance to it. The value of this secret was probably even higher than Lin Yuan had imagined. Lin Yuan had never thought that the government decree that he had yet to issue had already been leaked. Therefore, he didn't even think that the sea of people he saw today was actually the result of the Qiao family's preparations. He still thought that the Qiao family's strength had already reached such a terrifying degree. This didn't make Lin Yuan afraid. Instead, it made him even more determined to eradicate the noble families and sects. Qiao Yilin shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "My Qiao family has always been upright. What inconvenience is there? It's just that Lord Dragon King might not know, but this person is an abandoned son of my Qiao family. In the past, he betrayed the Qiao family and colluded with outsiders to deal with our Qiao family. After that, he went to a foreign land and came to the northern frontier to purchase spirit items. He was caught red-handed by us. Speaking of which, we still have to thank Lord Dragon King. If not for you, this person might not have returned to the northern frontier." Chapter 310. I know that. Lin Yuan choked on Qiao Yilin's words again, and the ridicule in his eyes intensified. Then, Qiao Yilin opened his mouth, and a trace of indignation flashed across his eyes. He could see that this black snake didn't even put his Qiao clan in his eyes. He clearly knew that the other party was an abandoned disciple that the Qiao clan had expelled back then. and he still dared to boldly come over and ask for the person. What did this black snake think of his Chow clan as? An ant on the side of the road that he could casually step on? I've already said that this person is a friend of mine. I only came to the Chow family to ask if you can give this Lin some face, and let bygones be bygones. First, release this person to reunite with his family. This way, this Lin will be able to answer to my friend's wife and children. However, Chow clan head can rest assured. This Lin will not let the Chow clan lose face for nothing. I can make the decision. The next time the Chow clan orders face, I can give the Chow clan a 20% discount. No matter how much you order, I will definitely not let you suffer a loss in terms of price. Lin Yuan looked at Chow Yilin with a sincere gaze, and his tone had a hint of negotiation. If it was an ordinary matter, Chow Yilin really had to give this face. After all, Lin Yuan controlled all the face supply in the northern frontier. Once they fell out with Lin Yuan and couldn't directly defeat Lin Yuan and the northern frontier prince's residence, the Chow clan would no longer have a foothold in the northern frontier. They might not even be able to maintain their current business. Order phase? Sorry, out of stock. The northern frontier's Fei distribution was in Lin Yuan's hands, and he would give as much as he wanted. As long as Lin Yuan said a few harsh words to the Chow clan, the Chow clan wouldn't be able to get any phase in the future. This matter wouldn't arouse the sympathy of the other clans and sections. Instead, they would be eager for the Chow clan to be kicked out. After all, this was a business with huge profits. If others were to earn a bit more, it would mean that their own profits would be reduced. As for other aspects, the northern frontier prince's residence could clearly make arrangements for the Chow clan. They could attack the Chow clan from all angles using the law and underground rules. Even if the Chow clan had a huge business, how long could they last against Lin Yuan's attacks within the rules? As long as Lin Yuan didn't directly use force to suppress the Chow clan, it would be very difficult to arouse the rebellious thoughts of the other sects and clans. Sometimes, once benefits were involved, even the most astute person would be blinded. If Lin Yuan wanted to suppress the Chow clan, he didn't need to bring a large number of armed forces. Low-level Fey beasts were too difficult to control. If he launched a beast tide to attack the Chow clan, the people of Shunning City would inevitably suffer heavy casualties. This was undoubtedly something that Lin Yuan didn't want to see. However, excluding the power of the Hengduan mountain range, just the power of the northern frontier prince's residence, and the other 6 city lords might not be enough to suppress the terrifying Chow clan. However, this didn't mean that Lin Yuan couldn't do anything to the Chow clan. After all, although the northern frontier was under his control, there was still the existence of the Shunwu dynasty. Therefore, Lin Yuan could play with the Chow clan within the rules. As long as the Chow clan dared to rebel, not only would they not have a place to stay in the northern frontier, but even the Shunwu dynasty wouldn't let go of this deep-rooted family in the northern frontier that vaguely threatened the Shunwu dynasty's control over the northern frontier. There was no other way, but once there was an opportunity, with Lei Qiuxing's domineering personality, he would definitely not let go of any opportunity to eliminate dissidents. Therefore, Lin Yuan came alone not to show off, but purely because there was no need to. Lin Yuan's words directly kicked the ball to Chow Yilin, and Chow Yilin's face was also full of helplessness. Now the other party didn't want to talk about the abandoned son of the Chow clan, or anything like that. He even vaguely avoided the other party's secrets and directly asked if they would give him face or not. The corner of Chow Yilin's mouth twitched slightly, and he said in a deep voice, "Lord Dragon King, it's not that my Chow clan doesn't want to give you face, but this bastard's past actions are really infuriating. This time, we finally caught him, so a few of our family's juniors were a little agitated and accidentally hit him a little hard. Now he's probably dead." Hearing how shameless Chow Yilin was, Lin Yuan's mouth twitched violently. He couldn't help but think of the beautiful woman who asked him to take action. That woman probably already knew what kind of end her man would end up in before she set off, right? However, since Chow Yilin had already said that, Lin Yuan really couldn't continue to make things difficult for him. After all, the other party really was an abandoned son of the Chow clan. Even if Lin Yuan investigated this point, he wouldn't be able to find any problems. Although the internal strife of the Qiao clan wasn't so cruel that they had to fight to the death, in order to prevent outsiders from gossiping, their hands and feet would definitely be very clean. Therefore, the name that this abandoned son of the Qiao clan had been pinned on him back then could really be that he had colluded with foreign enemies. If Lin Yuan continued to make things difficult for the Qiao clan now, it wouldn't be as if he was pressuring the Qiao clan, but as if he was determined to find trouble with the Qiao clan with a cold face. Lin Yuan definitely wouldn't do something that required effort and didn't benefit him. No matter what the other party was like before he came here, but now, they would definitely deal a fatal blow to the abandoned son of the Qiao clan. Even if they guessed that the beautiful woman who asked Lin Yuan to come here also knew about this secret, the final outcome wouldn't be much different. However, they still wouldn't hand the person over to Lin Yuan. After all, this was still considered a game. How could the Qiao clan be willing to lower their heads? Lord Dragon King, Patriarch Qiao. What are you guys chatting about? Just as both parties were in a deadlock, Lei Fan suddenly led Li Zhongxing and Luo Su out from behind Lin Yuan. There was a hint of meaning in his eyes as he sized up Qiao Yilin and the two Heavenly Dipper realm experts from the Qiao clan. Although there was a hint of laughter in his voice, there wasn't a hint of a smile on Lei Fan's face. On the contrary, Lei Fan's cold eyes were filled with malice. Why are you here? Without waiting for Qiao Yilin to open his mouth to exchange pleasantries, Lin Yuan asked in surprise. Lei Fan snorted coldly and said in a strange tone, I'm here to seek an explanation from Patriarch Qiao. I didn't expect the Northern Frontier's Qiao clan to be so powerful, to openly plant their men in the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion, and even flip through the documents on my desk? As his voice fell, Luo Su suddenly threw the bundle he was carrying on his shoulders onto the ground. A few muffled groans could be heard from within the bundle, and then it started to wriggle. Luo Su didn't stay idle either. He took 2 steps forward and stepped on the bundle. With a flip of his hand, he pulled out a dagger from his waist and sliced open the bundle, revealing the badly mutilated human-shaped creature inside. Even for Lin Yuan, after searching his mind for a long time, he could barely find the word human-shaped creature to describe it. Although he could still distinguish the head, body, limbs and the like, every single one of them was badly mutilated. Chapter 311. But other than the general outline of the body still resembling a human, Lin Yuan was completely unable to link this lump of mangled flesh with a living person. In other words, he could not even begin to imagine how tenacious this person's life force was, or how skillful Luo Su's methods were, to be able to turn the body into such a state and still have a single breath of life left in him. Looking at this lump of mangled flesh, Qiao Yilin's eyelids twitched slightly. As the saying goes, a new broom sweeps clean 3 fires. No one knew if Lei Fan, the newly appointed king of the Northern Frontier, would do such a thing. But Qiao Yilin was certain that the other party now had the Black Snake backing him up. His subordinates were able to mobilize the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce, which controlled all the demonic beast raw materials in the Northern Frontier, as well as the Association of the Demon Emperor which controlled the underworld. The 600,000-strong Northern Frontier Guard Legion was also firmly under his control. Even the officials in the Northern Frontier Duke's Palace were all selected from the commoners. Under such absolute control, the Duke's Palace in the Northern Frontier had the ability to go toe-to-toe with any other power. Hence, if the other party wanted to make a move, he would definitely make the biggest move. For example, the Qiao family. Hence, the Qiao family had thought of all sorts of ways and means to send a few spies into the Northern Frontier Duke's Palace. Just like the previous government order to sever the foundations of the various aristocratic families and sects in the Northern Frontier, it had been leaked out by these spies. Although it was only a matter of time before the spies would be exposed before the eyes of the Northern Frontier Duke's Palace, Qiao Yilin had never thought that this day would come so quickly. What was even more unexpected was that Lei Fan had merely caught hold of a small flaw in the Qiao family, and he had actually dared to bring the remains of the spies to their doorstep, to demand an explanation from the Qiao family. Hearing Lei Fan's words, Lin Yuan's eyes suddenly turned cold. The lines in his mind connected at this moment, And he suddenly figured it out. The reason why the Qiao clan had prepared a sea of men to welcome him was definitely not because they could predict the future and knew that he was coming for the abandoned son of the Qiao clan. The Qiao clan's actions were because they saw that his decree could cut off the foundations of the aristocratic families and sects, so they wanted to use this opportunity to flex their muscles in front of the Wang estate and Lin Yuan at the northern frontier. They wanted to show that the Qiao clan was not an existence that could be bullied. However, Qiao Yilin did not expect that their sea of men tactic would not only fail to intimidate Lin Yuan, but also embarrass him. Tisk, no wonder Patriarch Qiao made such a big fuss. It turns out that you misunderstood this king's intentions. Lin Yuan's cold gaze fell on Qiao Yilin's face, and Qiao Yilin suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Then Lin Yuan did not give Qiao Yilin a chance to explain. He silently took 2 steps forward, and the aura on his body was not restrained in the slightest. Like a tidal wave, it smashed toward Qiao Yilin. Heaven Dipper Realm Expert? Sorry, but Lin Yuan was not weak at all. In the blood boil state, Lin Yuan was definitely not a match for demonic beasts in terms of attribute points. However, when facing humans whose physique was far inferior to demonic beasts, Lin Yuan still had the ability to fight. Even if Heaven Dipper Realm experts did not lose to demonic beasts in all aspects, humans' balanced and perfect body structure determined that humans' ability to fight overload was far inferior to demonic beasts. If the two sides engaged in a high-intensity battle, Lin Yuan might be able to endure the duration of the blood boil state, but Qiao Yilin might be crushed to death by his own overload pressure. After all, not losing was not losing, but there was definitely a difference. For example, the Fire Kirin's fight against Yan Xingqi and Master Qin was the best example. In terms of individual combat ability, regardless of the realm, demonic beasts were still stronger. However, humans were better at teamwork. Moreover, in a battle of life and death, no one could count on the other to follow the rules, right? Qiao Yilin's face stiffened, and he said in a deep voice, "Lord Dragon King, what is the meaning of this?" "There is no other meaning. I just feel that the Qiao clan should change its leader." Lin Yuan had the confidence to win against Qiao Yilin, so his words were naturally firm. If he went against the Qiao clan for that secret, Lin Yuan might be able to win, but it would definitely be very damaging. It might even give the Qiao clan a chance to ally with other clans and sects to go against the northern frontier prince's residence. However, now that he was going against the Qiao clan, Lin Yuan had the right to do so. After all, no ruler would allow the clans and sects to place chess pieces around them, let alone something like peeking at secrets. Therefore, if this matter was blown up, the Qiao clan would definitely not have an easy time. Even the other clans and sects would stay away from the Qiao clan to avoid arousing suspicion. Qiao Yilin's chest heaved up and down violently, but his eyes suddenly turned cold. He said in a cold voice, "Since Lord Dragon King is so overbearing, then let's see who's the real deal." Before Lei Fan had rushed here, Qiao Yilin had thought of countless ways to deal with Lin Yuan if he were to fall out with him. Among them, the safest way was to use the combined strength of 3 Heaven Dipper Realm experts to fight against Lin Yuan. No matter how ferocious this Beast King who had never tasted defeat since he was born was, it was obviously impossible for him to win against 3 Heaven Dipper Realm experts working together. But now 3 Heaven Dipper Realm experts working together to fight against Lin Yuan? What was the difference between that and an open rebellion? Qiao Yilin very quickly realized that this was Lin Yuan's intention to weaken the Qiao family's strength. Since the Qiao family was in the wrong, they could only choose to take on Lin Yuan's vengeance head-on. If they won today's battle, it would still be fine. Although he did not dare to openly kill Lin Yuan, but after dealing a heavy blow to Lin Yuan, he would be able to quickly reap the benefits of that secret. But if he was unable to defeat Lin Yuan, then the Qiao family could really change their leader. Because he did not dare to kill Lin Yuan, but if Lin Yuan were to kill him, he would not have any psychological burden at all. The moment Qiao Yilin's voice fell, he suddenly felt that the water spirit qi in the air had started to flow quickly, and was rapidly converging towards his location. F***ck. Qiao Yilin did not care about his demeanor as a Heaven Dipper Realm expert, as he opened his mouth and cursed out loud. He had intended to exchange a few harsh words with Lin Yuan, secretly cut off some benefits, and let this matter pass. However, he did not expect that Lin Yuan would not have the slightest intention to talk nonsense with him. Almost at the same time when his face turned cold, Lin Yuan had already begun to make his move. If he was not a Heaven Dipper realm expert, and was extremely sensitive to the Heaven-Earth Spirit Qi, he might have already fallen into Lin Yuan's hands. However, although he was cursing out loud, Xiao Yilan's dodging actions were still extremely fast. Almost at the same time that he noticed the abnormality, he had already made a perfect dodge, and successfully avoided the area where the water spirit Qi gathered the most. However, Xiao Yilan was not the existence of Lin Yuan's previous life, so he was not good at psychological games. When Lin Yuan made his move, he had already guessed that Xiao Yilan would dodge, so his original intention was not to use the water monarch and formless ice to forcefully control Xiao Yilan, like how he dealt with the previous demonic beasts. Instead, he deliberately forced Xiao Yilan to dodge. At this moment, seeing that Xiao Yilan had already entered the area that he had predicted, Lin Yuan brazenly activated formless ice. Chapter 312. Ice Realm, Golden Spear Armored Horse. Lin Yuan's cold voice sounded. Xiao Yilan was slightly startled, and he felt a little uneasy. In the next moment, the water spiritual power gathered around Xiao Yilan instantly turned into pure ice spiritual power, and quickly materialized into knights made entirely of ice. These knights directly surrounded Xiao Yilan in the middle, and began to attack again and again. Dual-type monster. Xiao Yilan's face stiffened. He spread out his hands, and a layer of blue water shield instantly wrapped around his body. Although the Ice Knight hit the seemingly weak water shield again and again, it only caused ripples to appear on it. Lin Yuan's attack did not succeed, and there was no trace of annoyance in his eyes, but Xiao Yilan was different. A single-type monster was already very difficult to deal with, and a dual-type monster was even more terrifying. At this moment, Lin Yuan just made a move, and no one knew how many killing moves Lin Yuan had in his hands. When the ice spiritual energy was exhausted, and the last Ice Knight collapsed, Xiao Yilan waved his hand and removed the water shield that wrapped around him. He slowly raised his right hand and pointed at Lin Yuan, and said in a deep voice, "It's my turn." The next moment, an incomparably thick water dragon spurted out from Xiao Yilan's palm. It opened its bloody mouth and let out a silent dragon roar, and directly bit at Lin Yuan, who was standing in the same place without moving at all. Courting death. Seeing that Lin Yuan did not dodge, a cold light flashed in Xiao Yilan's eyes. Although his water dragon was only a mimicry, how could the means of a heaven realm expert be so simple? Xiao Yilan was sure that if Lin Yuan took his water dragon head-on, the best outcome would be a serious injury, and he might even lose the ability to fight directly. However, Xiao Yilan subconsciously frowned, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. Lin Yuan's name as Mad Python was widely spread, naturally not because he was arrogant and ignorant, but because Lin Yuan seemed to have nothing in his eyes that was worthy of his fear. However, in terms of fighting, Lin Yuan had reached an astonishing 100% win rate, which was not a result that an arrogant and ignorant person could achieve. After eliminating the possibility that the other party was underestimating him, Xiao Yilan's eyes narrowed. Could it be that Lin Yuan had the ability to easily take on his water dragon charge? The answer was revealed in an instant. Lin Yuan's azure blue vertical pupil lit up, and the special ability of the Monarch of Water was activated. It directly blocked the channel of communication between Xiao Yilan and the water spiritual energy. Thus, Xiao Yilan's control over the water dragon disappeared instantly. The water dragon that was still aggressive just a moment ago instantly collapsed in front of Lin Yuan's face, turning into a large pool of water that fell to the ground. How is this possible? Xiao Yilan stared blankly at the splashing water, astonishment written all over his face. He never thought that Lin Yuan actually had such a heaven-defying ability, to actually be able to cut off his channel of communication with the water spiritual energy in an instant. As a Heavenly Dipper realm powerhouse who majored in water techniques, After Lin Yuan displayed this unique skill, although it was not enough to directly cripple Qiao Yilin, it was at least 70% of his combat power. In fact, the monarch of water talent seemed to be heaven-defying, but in fact, it was not really that powerful. In the face of an existence that was lower than himself, Lin Yuan could casually deprive the other party of their water spiritual energy until he cancelled the talent or the other party left the range of his talent. However, in the face of a heavenly dipper realm existence like Qiao Yilin, Lin Yuan was far from being able to casually deprive the other party of their ability, but a little interference was not a big problem. Just like just now, when Qiao Yilin's attack was about to reach him, he directly activated his ability to make Qiao Yilin's attack ineffective. As long as Lin Yuan still had the energy to activate his talent, then in front of Lin Yuan, Qiao Yilin would still be a stinky little brother that was at his mercy. Of course, this was also because Lin Yuan and Qiao Yilin's realms were not that far apart. If it was a Void Realm cultivator who used their water ability, although Lin Yuan could still interfere with the other party, at most, it would cause some stagnation or awkwardness when the other party used their ability, not to mention making the other party's attack ineffective. It was hard to say whether or not the other party could even dodge the attack. Wait. Lord Dragon King, if there's anything I can... Before Qiao Yilin's voice fell, Lin Yuan had already started the next round of attacks. After all, Formless Ice and the Monarch of Water were both in cooldown. If he did not seize the opportunity to control the battle rhythm now, when Qiao Yilin realized that he could use the water spiritual energy again, the outcome of the battle would be uncertain. Void's Embrace. This skill evolved from Strangle. Although it was a physical attack, in a sense, it had already become an existence on the level of a causal skill. Almost at the same time that Lin Yuan used it, Lin Yuan's figure had already escaped into the elusive void. In an instant, Lin Yuan had already appeared behind Qiao Yilin, and his shrunken snake body directly wrapped around Qiao Yilin. This is bad. Almost all of the spectating Qiao family cultivators had expressions of horror on their faces. What was the most lethal attack for a python like Lin Yuan? Tail attacks, elements, venom, and the like were just icing on the cake. The real way to kill the enemy quickly, and without giving the enemy a chance to resist, was the strangle ability that snakes liked and were best at. Unless one's thwart cultivation technique had reached perfection, once entangled by a python, it was impossible to break free. This was why Void's Embrace was comparable to a causal skill in Lin Yuan's eyes. What kind of terrifying ability was it to appear behind the enemy and strangle them in an instant? If it wasn't for the short casting range of this skill, Lin Yuan dared to say that there was nothing in the world that could stop him from killing. After all, the distance between him and Qiao Yilin wasn't far. After a round of fighting, the distance between the two sides was estimated to be less than 20 meters. And this was already the limit of Void's Embrace's casting range. If Qiao Yilin just took a step back, he would be able to escape from Lin Yuan's attack range. Qiao Yilin took a deep breath, feeling the threat of death in his face. At this moment, Qiao Yilin's heart had even given up resisting. He directly closed his eyes and waited for death. But at the same time, Qiao Yilin suddenly felt that there seemed to be a layer of invisible shackles on his body. As time passed, this layer of shackles was constantly weakening. Just as Lin Yuan's snake body was about to wrap around him, Qiao Yilin instantly opened his eyes, and a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Die! Lin Yuan's low voice suddenly sounded. The snake body changed into an O shape, and directly strangled him. Chapter 313. Bang! Qiao Yilin, who was originally in the bag, suddenly turned into a ball of water, and was crushed by Lin Yuan. At this moment, the pale-faced Qiao Yilin suddenly appeared about 50 meters behind Lin Yuan. His chest was heaving up and down violently, and he was panting heavily. The ability to switch bodies was considered a very high-level technique in any cultivation system. Not only could it avoid the enemy's attack, but it could also seize the opportunity to counterattack. However, there were many prerequisites for this technique. Most cultivators would need to prepare for a period of time before they could use it. Of course, It wasn't impossible to use it instantaneously like Xiao Yilin, but the consumption would be very terrifying. It was so terrifying that even a Heaven Star Border Realm expert, who was constantly absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, would feel exhausted. Seeing that Xiao Yilin had successfully switched bodies, Lin Yuan's snake body stretched out again. A trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. "Ha, you have some skills. No wonder you are the head of the Qiao clan. However, this level is still far from surviving." "Stop. Lord Dragon King, please excuse us for a moment. We can discuss anything." Seeing that Lin Yuan was eager to try, Xiao Yilin quickly raised a hand with fear in his eyes. Xiao Yilin was very clear that whether it was for that secret or for the implementation of the new decree, Lin Yuan would undoubtedly kill the Qiao clan. In the past, Xiao Yilin thought that as a direct descendant of the Qiao clan and the head of the Qiao clan, he could give up everything for the Qiao clan. However, at this moment, in the face of the threat of death, Xiao Yilin suddenly realized that he wasn't as loyal to the Qiao clan as he thought. He just liked the power that the Qiao clan brought him. Therefore, Xiao Yilin didn't have any psychological burden, and directly planned to sell out the Qiao clan's interests in exchange for his own safety, including the 2 Heaven Star Border Realm cultivators. All the Qiao clan cultivators were dumbfounded. There was even a trace of resentment in their puzzled eyes. After all, Lin Yuan killing Xiao Yilin was only a personal matter. However, if Xiao Yilin reached an agreement with Lin Yuan, the Qiao clan's interests might not be the only thing that would be betrayed. In the future, the Qiao clan might even be criticized by other clans and sects in other places. But his mentality was similar to Xiao Yilin's. The loyalty of these Qiao family cultivators to the Qiao family was far less than they had imagined. In the face of Lin Yuan's ability to defeat Xiao Yilin in an instant, they still chose to remain silent from the bottom of their hearts. Only when those pairs of blank eyes fell on Lin Yuan would there be slight ripples. Wasn't this demonic beast a little too strong? What do you think? Lin Yuan didn't make a move immediately, but he maintained his attacking posture, and asked without turning his head. Although Lin Yuan did not turn his head around, Lei Fan still quickly realized that Lin Yuan was talking to him. After deliberating for a moment, Lei Fan nodded his head slightly and said in a deep voice, "I also feel that this matter can be discussed. Although I am disgusted by the actions of the Qiao family, but any living being would seek a sense of security when they are not feeling uneasy. This is also something to be expected. But I think that although the Qiao family knows some secrets, but they are not so foolish as to announce it to the public." Regarding the decree that Lin Yuan wanted to implement, although there were disagreements within the Northern Frontier King's palaces, they were all existences that had once been enemies with Lin Yuan. Although Lin Yuan was relying on the strength of the Northern Frontier King's palaces and the Demon Emperor's Association, he could only be considered a second-rate force at best. Not to mention a super first-rate force like the Qiao family, even a first-rate force like the Freedom Yard would be able to thrash him. But looking at the Northern Frontier, there weren't many existences that dared to offend Lin Yuan. After all, this man could mobilize the Hengduan Mountains beast tide to attack the Northern Frontier cities with just a single word. To the Northern Frontier that had no city walls now, 1 or 2 beast tides might not be a big deal. But as time went by, there would be many such close combat battles. The human side's reproductive ability would be far inferior to the demonic beasts. When that time came, it would only be a matter of time before the Northern Frontier was destroyed. The deterrence of martial strength was one of the reasons. More importantly, Lin Yuan still controlled the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce. Although it belonged to the Northern Frontier King's palaces in name, everyone knew that the phase and demonic beasts that the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce sold came from Lin Yuan. Once Lin Yuan left the Northern Frontier, the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce would only exist in name. They wouldn't have the guts to enter the Hengduan Mountains to obtain those things. The entire Northern Frontier's economy would be regressed by a few decades. Therefore, looking at the Northern Frontier, there weren't many people that dared to offend Lin Yuan. It could even be said that when Lin Yuan was willing to play with them within the rules, they were actually happy. Therefore, even if there were disagreements within the Northern Frontier King's palaces, no one dared to spread the news. After all, these forces' tolerance for Lin Yuan wasn't limitless. When they knew that Lin Yuan wanted to cut off their foundation, and that they couldn't openly resist, they might even be crazy enough to directly assassinate Lin Yuan. The consequences of that weren't something that the northern frontier could bear. However, there would always be some lunatics who felt that since they were going to die, they might as well die together. Of course. Everyone, please take a seat at the Qiao residence. Qiao Yilin nodded and revealed a somewhat flattering smile. He even regretted his superfluous action. Although he had obtained the secret decree of the Northern Frontier King's palaces, the Northern Frontier King's palaces hadn't released it yet. Therefore, the bowstring hadn't been pulled taut and wouldn't break. The other forces wouldn't directly fall out with Lin Yuan, but the Qiao family, who already knew the secret, naturally became Lin Yuan's first target. Lifting a rock and smashing it on his own feet, Qiao Yilin felt that his previous actions couldn't be more apt to be described with this sentence. The group of Qiao family cultivators dared not speak out despite their anger, because according to the information that the Qiao family had obtained, the guards of the northern frontier had already been prepared to move out when Lei Fan had arrived at the east of the city. Now that Lin Yuan's side had a righteous cause and Lei Fan had already made preparations before setting off, it wasn't something that the Qiao family alone could contend against. Hence, under Qiao Yilin's lead, Lin Yuan, Lei Fan, Luo Su and Li Zhongxing walked towards the Qiao family's residence without the slightest scruple. They were not worried at all that the Qiao family had set up an ambush there. As if the Qiao family was not even worth mentioning. This kind of contemptuous action caused many of the Qiao family cultivators' faces to burn, but they didn't dare to fall out with them, and could only follow obediently at the back of the group, gathering towards the Qiao residence. There were even many people who were eagerly anticipating that the two sides would come to blows, because they couldn't come to an agreement. In any case, they didn't believe that after entering the residence that the Qiao family had operated for so many years, these four fellows would still be able to carve out a bloody path out of it unscathed. Chapter 3:14. At the same time, outside the eastern boundary of the city, the beautiful woman, who was observing Lin Yuan's every move, frowned slightly. A hint of confusion flashed through her eyes, as if she couldn't understand what he was thinking. Her surname was Zhen, and she was born in the Zhen clan of the imperial capital. It was a merchant clan backed by the Grand Secretary. Although her strength wasn't at the peak, she was still considered a member of the upper class among the various powers in the imperial capital. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to so easily get in touch with the abandoned son of the Qiao clan. Moreover, she had followed Lord Zhangxiu's orders and told the abandoned son of the Qiao clan a secret about the northern frontier, which had led to a series of conflicts. Yes, the beautiful woman had long since known what would happen to the abandoned son of the Qiao clan after learning of this secret. Even the Qiao clan knew of this secret because someone she had arranged in her husband's caravan had accidentally leaked the news. Otherwise, the Qiao clan wouldn't have been so free as to detain the leader of a subordinate clan that they had personally supported. As for the conflict between Lin Yuan and the Qiao clan, it was also within her expectations. Even if Lin Yuan didn't rely on the power of faith to cultivate, as the official god of the northern frontier, Lin Yuan wouldn't miss any opportunity to recruit believers, even if it was just for the sake of looking good. Thus, after putting on a show, she directly went to the Blackwater Dragon King Temple and contacted Lin Yuan, all for the sake of luring Lin Yuan into her trap. In addition, the reason the Qiao clan spy could accidentally come into contact with the secret information of the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion was also because of the embroidered guard's manipulation. The embroidered guard was also involved in the discovery of the identity of the Qiao clan's spy in the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion. Their goal was to make the Qiao clan and the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion become enemies. From beginning to end, this was a scheme set up by the embroidered guard under Zhangxiu's command. Moreover, it had started off exceptionally smoothly, with almost every step within the embroidered guard's control. Only at the most crucial step, when Lin Yuan faced Qiao Yilin, did the development of the situation suddenly deviate a little. Qiao Yilin was terrified. No one had expected that this person, who represented the Qiao clan's highest authority and the Qiao clan's interests, would be beaten into submission by Lin Yuan in a single exchange. As a result, the embroidered uniform guard's follow-up plans had completely collapsed. They had to come up with a new plan to deal with what would happen next. Thinking of this, the beautiful woman secretly spat. Her feet moved a few steps and quietly disappeared into the crowd. However, the beautiful woman did not notice that before she left the surveillance station, 3 pairs of emotionless eyes had been fixed on her for a long time. One of them was the criminal Xia Xiyu who had been recruited by Lin Yuan. Another was the dark shadow walker who was always by Lei Fan's side. And the last was the sword dancer who was always by Su Nan's side. 3 top-class assassins who were proficient in assassination to have their eyes on the same person at the same time. It was clear that Lin Yuan was wary of this beautiful lady. On the other side, in the Qiao clan's residence, Qiao Yilin, who had dismissed the crowd of cultivators, led his 2 Heavenly Dipper Realm brothers to the guest hall and sat down. There was no longer the fawning expression on his face, and it was as cold as a piece of ice that would never melt. Only when his gaze was fixed on Lin Yuan would there be a slight ripple in his eyes. Although every move he had made before was an act, the exchange between him and Lin Yuan was not fake. Both sides were intentionally flexing their muscles. Therefore, Qiao Yilin believed that once the 2 sides really started fighting, Lin Yuan really had the strength to kill him. This made him feel terrified in his heart, and his face grew colder and colder, not daring to show his true feelings. The 5 of them sat down, and Lin Yuan also coiled up his snake body. He smiled and said, "I'll have to trouble the Qiao clan's patriarch to put on a show with us." After all, the embroidered guard was an old power of the Shenwu dynasty, an existence comparable to the sword dancer and the shadow walker. Although the Demon Emperor society was powerful in the northern frontier, its foundation was still shallow. Naturally, it was impossible for it to completely remove the embroidered guard's spies. Therefore, the embroidered guard would make a comeback sooner or later. This had always been within Lin Yuan's expectations. However, Lin Yuan did not expect that the embroidered guard would make such a vicious move this time. It was as if they had directly caused the northern frontier's prince's residents to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Qiao clan. They had even made Lin Yuan an enemy of the various forces in the northern frontier. Unfortunately, the embroidered guard had chosen the wrong opponent in the end. Although the northern frontier looked the same as before, a large net had been set up in the dark. From the officials of the city lord's residence to the peddlers and coachmen, almost everyone had Lin Yuan's informants. Some of the embroidered guard's spies might have thought that their whereabouts were hidden, but their every move had been exposed to Lin Yuan's eyes long ago. Lin Yuan naturally had to be on guard against an existence like the beautiful woman who had taken the initiative to come to him with a secret. Therefore, after she left the Dragon King's temple, Lin Yuan immediately contacted Sherdong, the person in charge of the Demon Emperor Society in Shunning City, and began to follow the beautiful woman's trail. As expected, he discovered that this woman had made contact with a few people who were suspected to be members of the Embroidered Guard. Not only did she confirm the identities of these Embroidered Guard members, she also made it clear that there was something wrong with her. Therefore, Lin Yuan very naturally completed the prelude according to her script. When the matter reached the critical point, he privately communicated with Qiao Yilin, which led to the scene outside. Of course, although Qiao Yilin was cooperating with Lin Yuan, after the battle, he was indeed afraid of Lin Yuan. Otherwise, he would not have publicly humiliated himself. Lord Dragon King, our next step is... A cold glint flashed in Qiao Yilin's eyes. In the past, when the Qiao family was glorious in the northern frontier, even Lei Qiuxing had to be courteous when he personally came to the northern frontier. A mere embroidered guard actually dared to use the Qiao family as a chess piece. Wait. Lin Yuan closed his eyes and said casually. Then, without waiting for the others to speak again, he added, "We have disrupted the embroidered guard's original plan, so they will panic. Moreover, they will quickly formulate a new plan to make up for their mistake. We may not be a match for the embroidered guard if we play such underhanded tricks. Therefore, we must make use of our powerful advantage in the northern frontier and wipe them out when they reveal a flaw. That is what we should do. Now the embroidered guard only had two choices. The first was to make that secret public. This way, Lin Yuan and the Qiao family would have to speed up their pace and reap the benefits before the other factions could react. After all, the Qiao family couldn't back down when they were just one step away from the door, right? The other choice was to make Lin Yuan's unannounced decree public. At that time, not only would the Qiao family become Lin Yuan's enemy, but all the factions in the northern frontier wouldn't let this matter rest. If they didn't choose either of these two paths, then the embroidered guard could only choose to give up on the northern frontier and quickly retreat. Chapter 3:15. Both options posed a great threat to Lin Yuan. At the same time, they were the only two options the embroidered uniform guard could choose to take action while hiding in the dark. However, from the ruler's position, the embroidered uniform guard was more likely to choose the first option. After all, Lei Qiusheng wasn't some incompetent emperor. On the contrary, Lei Qiusheng, who had a strong desire to control power, would never give up on this decree that would greatly harm the various aristocratic families and sections. The northern frontier just so happened to be one of the test subjects. Therefore, the embroidered uniform guard that belonged to the Xinwu dynasty wouldn't choose to announce Lin Yuan's decree at this time, unless they were mentally retarded. This would cause Lei Qiusheng to be dissatisfied, and at the same time, it would arouse the vigilance of the various factions. If they wanted to do something similar in the future, it would take twice the effort for half the result. Of course, anything was possible. After all, Zhang Xiu, who they had only heard of but hadn't seen, hadn't come to the northern frontier yet. Therefore, it was hard to say who the person in charge of this operation would be. It was also unknown how intelligent the other party was. What they were afraid of was that Zhang Xiu had been commanding from afar the entire time, while Lin Yuan had set up a counterattack. Although it wouldn't be enough to make the other party throw away their armor, it wouldn't be a problem to a certain degree. When the time came, Zhang Xiu would be separated from the embroidered uniform guard in the northern frontier. It was possible that the embroidered uniform guard in the northern frontier would make any kind of decision. Unfortunately, the embroidered uniform guard had chosen the wrong opponent in the end. Although the northern frontier wasn't small, there weren't many people moving around. Only a few merchants would come to the northern frontier to purchase various phase and demon beast materials. Not everyone had the courage to live under the same roof as the demon beasts. Therefore, after Lin Yuan ruled the northern frontier, anyone who moved to the northern frontier was under the surveillance of the Demon Emperor Association. Therefore, the embroidered uniform guard's little tricks couldn't be hidden from Lin Yuan. In addition, when the embroidered uniform guard was choosing a target, they shouldn't have chosen the Qiao clan. The development of the situation had been going according to the embroidered uniform guard's plan. However, Lin Yuan had taken the opportunity to communicate with Qiao Yilin during the fight, so the matter wouldn't be out of the embroidered uniform guard's control. One reason why Qiao Yilin was that he wasn't a match for Lin. Another reason was that the Qiao clan had the ability to investigate the embroidered uniform guard. Lord Dragon King, although our two clans are cooperating now, there are some things that I still have to ask clearly. Qiao Yilin stroked his beard and said in a deep voice, although the embroidered uniform guard is involved in this matter, the decree should have come from you, right? I just want to ask clearly, do you really want the northern frontier's aristocratic families and sects to be destroyed? What if you do? Lin Yuan grinned, revealing a meaningful smile. After pondering for a moment, he replied with a question. Qiao Yilin took a deep breath and gently shook his head. He replied, I am not a match for the Dragon King. Even if the Qiao clan can stop the Dragon King for a while, it won't be able to stop the Dragon King forever. If the Dragon King insists on doing this, I hope that on account of the Qiao clan's willingness to cooperate with the Dragon King, you will give the Qiao clan a way out. Even if that doesn't work, please allow the Qiao clan to move out of the northern frontier. Uffed. Lin Yuan suddenly sneered. His eyes suddenly became deep as he said indifferently, Patriarch Qiao, if you were the ruler of the northern frontier, would you wish for other voices to exist in your territory? If you had the chance, would you choose to coexist with these powers that could shake your rule at any time? Or would you choose to eradicate them? This, Xiao Yilin narrowed his eyes slightly. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. If he were the ruler of the northern frontier and had the right opportunity, of course he would eradicate these powers. But the problem was that the northern frontier wasn't under the Qiao clan's rule, but his Qiao clan was one of these powers. The so-called aristocratic families and sects, in my opinion, are all the same. They are nothing more than a group of people who formed a group for some benefits. Whether these people originally did it for benefits or for righteousness, in essence, they are powers that have jumped out of the control of the northern frontier's ruler. Their combined power can even easily replace the ruler of the northern frontier. Therefore, they are existences that no ruler can tolerate. But then again, no matter when, aristocratic families and sects are bound to appear. For example, among the 7 castellans of the northern frontier, except for the Hu clan that has been guarding Shunning City for generations, the other 6 castellans were transferred from the Xinwu dynasty. In the local area, except for relying on the strength of the local garrison, they have almost no deterrence to speak of. Nominally, they are castellans, but in reality, they are restrained by aristocratic families and sects everywhere. Under my rule, their status hasn't changed much, but in 10 years, or 100 years, they will become the new aristocratic families of the northern frontier. Therefore, my intention has never been to annihilate powers like the aristocratic families and sections. I only hope to bring these powers under my control, and at the same time, set a new set of rules to unify these powers in a circle. If they are willing to abide by the rules, then they can naturally continue to exist. But if they want to challenge the rules, then they must suffer my endless fury. Lin Yuan's voice was very soft, but in Xiao Yilin's ears, it was like a clap of thunder. After all, ordinary people join sects to cultivate, but the Northern Frontier Academy set up by Lin Yuan could perfectly achieve this. Once enrolled, they would be students. Although the treatment was different according to the aptitude, at least some of the chores would be done by the ordinary staff hired by the academy. It was not like ordinary sects, where disciples were nominally disciples, but in reality, they were handymen, and all the dirty and tiring work was thrown to the grassroots disciples who had no background to speak of. But it was absolutely impossible for aristocratic families to be abolished. Today's 7 castellans, and even some of the generals of the Northern Frontier Guard Corps, would become the new aristocratic families of the Northern Frontier in 10 years, or a few decades. If Lin Yuan wanted to abolish aristocratic families, it meant that he would become the enemy of everyone. After all, who didn't shed their blood to achieve meritorious deeds and protect their descendants? Understood. Qiao Yilin stood up and said in a deep voice, Lord Dragon King, the Qiao family is willing to donate all the land under our name to the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion. In addition, I will also arrange for people to make copies of the cultivation manuals in the Qiao family's storage. When the Northern Frontier Academy is officially established, it will be sent over. To be able to become the head of a superclass power like the Qiao family, Qiao Yilin's mind was undoubtedly very flexible. After understanding Lin Yuan's future plans, he quickly figured out how to protect the Qiao family. Buying the 380th monthly ticket. Chapter 316. Qiao Yilin was very clear that his words and actions today would cause the Qiao family to suffer a huge blow, to the point that they would fall out of the ranks of the superpowers. From a great family outside the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion, to a great family under the control of the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion. Just thinking about it would cause countless Qiao family disciples to feel dissatisfied. But Qiao Yilin did not regret his words and actions in the slightest. After all, the Qiao family had been passed down for close to 1,000 years. Outsiders might think that the Qiao family was stubborn and obstinate, abiding by the old traditions, but in reality, that was not the case. Every era had its own rules, and those who could not accept the new rules would undoubtedly be eliminated by the new era. Now that Lin Yuan had appeared, it was the prelude to the new era. Don't look at how Lin Yuan could only influence the northern frontier now, but given enough time, The entire Sky Marshall continent would be under his control. Qiao Yilan's heart was as clear as a mirror. If he chose to suffer some losses now and accept the new order brought by Lin Yuan, then the Qiao family would be able to continue on. After a few hundred years, the situation might change, and the Qiao family would be able to easily take back what was rightfully theirs. And even if the situation did not change, the Qiao family would still continue to exist, and they could patiently wait for the opportunity to come. And if Qiao Yilan chose to be conservative, and felt that Lin Yuan's plan would be nipped in the bud, then he could already start preparing his will. Just like what Lin Yuan had said earlier, the Qiao family would have a new leader. And if the new leader was not willing to cooperate with Lin Yuan, then the Qiao family might not even exist anymore. You are a promising child. Lin Yuan nodded his head in satisfaction. Although he was not surprised by Qiao Yilan's choice, but before communicating with Qiao Yilan, Lin Yuan had indeed made plans to eradicate the Qiao family. It was just that he needed time to prepare. Now that the Qiao family had tactfully chosen to admit defeat, then it was better to save some effort. Even Lei Fan's eyes revealed a look of surprise. After all, in the entire northern frontier, the most difficult family to deal with was the Qiao family. Now that even the Qiao family had surrendered without a fight, if the remaining families wanted to resist, they would have to consider whether they could withstand the wrath of the northern frontier prince's mansion. As for the sects, there was bound to be a battle between the two parties. Although Lin Yuan and Lei Fan did not object to the various sects coming to the northern frontier to set up dojos to impart their cultivation techniques, it was not a problem for them to open dojos and accept disciples. However, using the name of opening dojos and accepting disciples as an excuse to annex the land would be touching Lei Fan and Lin Yuan's reverse scale. While they were talking, Xia Siyu walked out of the void and said in a deep voice, "Demon Emperor, just as you expected." The woman surnamed Zhen immediately met with several people with high status in the embroidered guard after you and Master Qiao began to negotiate peace. Before we could find out what they were plotting, a piece of news began to spread among the cultivators in Shunning City. Oh. Lin Yuan raised his eyelids slightly and pretended to be surprised. Although he did not know what the beautiful woman had not told him about the secret, but from the reaction of the Qiao family, the profit this secret could bring was definitely not low. Otherwise, Qiao Yilan would not have been schemed against by the embroidered guard. 14,000 miles to the east of Shunning City, there is a mirror-like lake in the demonic beast forest. It covers an area of about 500 meters, but once you go deep into the lake, you will find that there is another world inside. Dive down for about 3,000 meters, and you will enter an underwater world. There are countless demonic beasts of the Water Clan, but there are also countless spiritual objects of the Water Clan. Moreover, these spiritual objects are not young, and you can casually bring them back and make a fortune. Xia Siyu continued expressionlessly. In addition, as if to prove what I said, several valuable water spirit objects have already appeared in the black market of Shunning City. Because the other party rented our stall in the black market to trade, the black market has no right to detain them. Ever since Lin Yuan ruled the northern frontier, he had also made great efforts to reform the black market. In the past, the black market could be said to be a mix of crooks and honest people. The low-level cultivators were all mortal evolution states who wanted to broaden their horizons, and the high-level cultivators who wanted to try their luck and see if there were any good treasures. As a place that could attract void nether state cultivators, it went without saying what kind of treasures could be brought out. However, while the black market had a large number of transactions, the security was not outstanding. It was not uncommon for people to fight over a few treasures, and even affect the order of the black market. There were even cases of buyers robbing the vendors because they could not afford the price. In short, it was a mess. If one did not have a certain level of strength, not many people would dare to trade in the black market. After all, the probability of being killed and robbed was too high. There were even some unscrupulous shops that would kill the buyer after selling the item. The next day, they would hang the treasure in the shop again and wait for the next unlucky person. After Lin Yuan took over Shunning City, he made drastic changes to the black market. Some unscrupulous shop owners were directly killed by Lin Yuan on the spot, and their corpses were hung on the city wall to warn others. He also set up security in the black market. Anyone who wanted to cause trouble in the black market would have to consider if they had the power. Even if they had the power, they would not be nameless people. Lin Yuan would personally take revenge on the other party after the matter was over. Although the black market was still called the black market, there was a new order and a safe trading environment. No matter who wanted to sell items in the black market, they would have to register their identity in the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion, and then get a number plate to set up their stall in the black market. If the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion approved it, then even if Lei Fan came personally, he would not be able to interfere with the other party's trade. That's interesting. A cold glint flashed across Lei Fan's eyes as he frowned and said, "If that's the case, then the news released by the embroidered uniform guard might not be true. According to what I know, the embroidered uniform guard has quite a number of valuable spiritual items in their storage. If they want to set up a trap to deceive us, they would just have to spend a little money. But those who believe in this secret might have to pay with their lives." As his voice fell, Xiao Yilan's face immediately turned a little unnatural. He had not thought that this whole matter was a trap set up by the embroidered uniform guard from the beginning to the end, and as a water attribute cultivation technique cultivator, he had not hesitated to fall out with Lin Yuan for the sake of those precious water attribute spiritual items. But now it seemed that even this secret might be fake. The embroidered uniform guard had completely played him for a fool. No, this secret should be real. A serious look flashed across Lin Yuan's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Although creating something out of nothing is tempting, but if you want to set up a killing trap, you still have to see it with your own eyes." Chapter 317. As the saying went, seeing is believing, didn't mean that just showing a few water-type spiritual items was enough. Once this secret was spread, it would undoubtedly attract many people to investigate. However, there were too many false rumors in the Tianwu continent. So even those who didn't like to use their brains wouldn't rashly start a fight with cultivators who had the same goal as them before confirming the truth of the rumor. If they wanted to turn the entire situation into a killing trap, then even if the embroidered uniform guard had to set it up themselves, they had to create a true secret realm. If the embroidered uniform guard had been at their peak, it wouldn't have been much of a problem for them to create such a secret realm. However, the entire Northern Frontier's underworld was now under the control of the Demon Emperor Association. The embroidered uniform guard spies had been wiped out one batch after another before they barely managed to survive. So unless this secret realm had been set up long ago, it should be true. Then what should we do? Xiao Yilan raised his eyebrows and asked subconsciously. He was still very concerned about this secret realm. Previously, he had even gone as far as to fall out with Lin Yuan. Now that the embroidered uniform guard had leaked this secret, there would definitely be many cultivators who would return to explore it. If Lin Yuan hadn't expressed his desire to take this secret realm, then he wouldn't have minded using the Qiao family's power. However, he still had to act according to Lin Yuan's mood. Of course we'll spread the news with them. A faint smile flashed through Lin Yuan's eyes. He sneered. Didn't the embroidered uniform guard say that this is a secret realm with countless priceless spiritual items? I don't think that's the right way to put it. Lei Fan, find someone to spread the rumor as well. Just say that the lake is the burial ground of a fallen dragon. And not only are there valuable water attribute spirit objects there might even be the blood essence of a dragon. The 6 people in the reception room looked at each other. Did this guy think that this wasn't big enough? But in next to no time, Xiao Yilan understood Lin Yuan's intentions. After all of this had been a scheme planned by the embroidered guard since the beginning, so it was naturally impossible for them to just hand over the secret realm. So the embroidered guard would definitely organize a large number of people to enter the secret realm to search for treasures. On the other hand, Lin Yuan's actions were for the sake of attracting even more independent cultivators to the secret realm, and he was waiting for both sides to fight over the treasures beneath the lake. As for whether or not they would accidentally injure Lin Yuan's people, this was naturally not within Lin Yuan's consideration. The men from the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion had sealed off the entire region. After all, the Northern Frontier Prince's mansion was in a cooperative relationship with the demonic beasts of the Hungduan Mountains. The other cultivation forces would have to sneak their way into the lake. However, Lei Fan had no such qualms. As long as his men did not step foot into the Hungduan Mountains, the demonic beasts would not bother him. When the time came, those cultivators who had entered the lake would have to risk their lives to come out of the secret realm. Whether or not they could bring away the treasures, and how many treasures they could bring away, would all depend on Lei Fan's mood. As for the matter of screening the members of the Embroidered Guard, it was even simpler. Although the independent cultivators were a little more relaxed, they would still join forces against the various aristocratic families and sects to deal with existences that they normally did not dare to provoke. So once the members of the Embroidered Guard entered the secret realm, they would naturally choose to group up or mingle with the independent cultivators. However, they would definitely come into contact with each other. According to the list of names that the Council of the Demon Emperor had, Lin Yuan believed that he would be able to ferret out the remaining forces of the Embroidered Guard in the northern frontier very quickly. Time trickled by. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days had passed. After Lin Yuan's group left the Qiao clan, they had been holed up in Shunning City, not taking even half a step outside. The Qiao clan did not have any unusual reaction either. This left the members of the Embroidered Guard helpless. After all, their opponents had left them with no openings at all. However, recently, the news that they had spread out in the various cultivators' gathering places had actually become even more explosive. For example, the secret realm was the burial ground of an ancient dragon clan, and there might be dragon clan blood essence and other treasures of heaven and earth inside. If that was all, it would be fine. However, there were actually people who said that the secret realm had a young ancient dragon clan left behind. If they were lucky enough to encounter it, they could tame it as a pet and raise it to be a great fighting force. This secret realm was discovered by the Embroidered Guard. Although time was short, the Embroidered Guard did not completely investigate it. It was hard to say whether this underwater secret realm had anything to do with the ancient dragon clan, but they were certain that there was absolutely no young ancient dragon clan in the secret realm. There wasn't even a dragon bloodline demon beast. At the same time, in the southern district of the city, in a tea house called Coiled Incense, the woman surnamed Zhen rested her chin on her right hand and gazed deeply at the street outside the window. She muttered, "Something's not right. The Black Snake clan might already know about our plan." Recently, there has been a lot of rumors. Perhaps the Black Snake clan deliberately released it through the Demon Emperor Association. Their goal is to attract powerful cultivators to compete with us for the secret realm. At this moment, she finally understood what it meant to shoot oneself in the foot. At the very beginning, they were the ones who released the news. Their goal was to give the Black Snake clan a sense of urgency and force them to explore the secret realm with the Qiao clan. As long as these two forces entered the secret realm at the same time, there was a possibility that they would fight over the various spiritual items in the secret realm. In the end, not only did the Black Snake clan not feel any urgency, they even spread the news with them. In fact, they were even more exaggerated than them. It was as if they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to attract powerful characters. And now, the Black Snake clan and the Qiao clan still had no intention of setting off. It was as if they had already given up on this secret realm. However, while the Black Snake clan and the Qiao clan could do this, the Northern Frontier Embroidered Uniform Guard couldn't. This was because they were the ones who discovered this secret realm. Originally, they only planned to use it to set up a trap. Then, while both sides were still preparing, they would directly take away the wealth in the secret realm, making the Black Snake clan and Xiao Yilin's efforts go in vain. When the time came, the possibility of both sides attacking each other in anger would sharply increase. However, the wealth in the secret realm belonged to the Embroidered Uniform Guard. Even if they didn't have the opportunity now, they still had to bring the wealth out and wait for a certain Embroidered Uniform Guard to count it. Therefore, if they wanted to give up this secret realm, it was equivalent to them taking out wealth equivalent to the spiritual items they had reported to the Embroidered Uniform Guard to fill the gap. In other words, even if they wanted to run now, they couldn't afford to. Even if they knew that Lin Yuan had already dug a big hole for them in the secret realm, they could only pinch their noses and jump in. Let's set off. If we're late, others might really take advantage of us. The woman surnamed Zhen sighed faintly. She was the first to stand up and walk out of the tea house, walking towards the city gate. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.